it's time to do some serious business together. I want to spend firstly a few minutes with you, and I want to be honest with you about the world that we are doing business in right now. Because I think one of the most dangerous things that we can do as kingdom people sitting here is to be spiritually awake but economically asleep. And the world outside, as you would notice, is moving very fast. It's really complex, it's challenging, and I want you to hold this, that it's also full of extraordinary opportunity, but only for those who have eyes to see. So let me give you a quick and honest feedback, and I want to do the landscape of business right now. So part of my job is business development. My job is to look at the trends in the market. My job is to look at the macroeconomic outspan of business, where opportunities might be, where do we participate in, where do we play in, what can impact our business, where the risks are. So that's part of my job. But I'm also an entrepreneur, so I look at it with both lenses, from a corporate perspective, but also from small, medium enterprise perspective. And I want to give you a frame for the session which you're about to experience, which we're going to get into some detail about. Now, I know I said I'm going to share some books with you. So here's one I want you to probably look and consider. There's an author by the name of Elsie Benedict. And she was a lecturer. She never really wrote a book, but they put together a combination of all of her lectures into a book. The book has got a bit of a strange title. It's called How to Get Anything You Want, right? So it's a strange title, but don't let the title influence you from what the book is about. The book is about mindset, attitude, disposition, and it was written in 1923. So these are old, and I've been reading a lot of old books of recent because there's a lot of wisdom. For those who have not already read it, I suggest you go, but books like the author of Napoleon Hill, Think and Grow Rich, also another title that it could be misconstrued, but tells you about mindset and thinking. So that's one for you. Elsie Benedict, How to Get Anything That You Want. So when we look at the environment of business right now, I think the first thing, and in no particular order that I'm going to mention it, but it's the Chinese influence in the economy that we're currently dealing with. And I want to start with something that people are discussing in the boardrooms, but they're not always saying it out loud. The Chinese economic presence in South Africa and across the entire African continent is not a future trend. It's currently a reality that we're dealing with. And since 2000, China has committed approximately $160 billion in loans and investments all across the African continent. In South Africa, Chinese companies are operating with significantly in the retail space, in telecommunications, construction, and in mining. And if you walk into any township right now, any suburb, the products and materials and the infrastructure that you see around certainly tells a story. Now, I'm not here to politicize this, right? I'm here to help you see the opportunity that's inside this dynamic that we are dealing with. And when powerful new entrants enter a market, it always produces gaps. So there would be gaps. And the Chinese businesses are exceptional at scale. They know how to scale, they know how to conduct logistics and manufacturing very efficiently. But what South African businesses have that they don't and cannot be imported is local knowledge, 1. 2 is local relationships. And 3 is cultural intelligence. And for those of you who have worked with these companies, certainly understand how that might impact us from a labor perspective, as an example, doing work here with localization. There's an author by the name of Myron Golden, also wrote some books. He's like, I call him the modern day Miles Monroe of business. And he makes a statement that says, you never compete, you create. So you don't try and beat companies or movements like this here at scale. You create a category where you are the only one. And you find a gap that only your understanding in the market can fill it. So I'm not going to give you the exact solution to it, but this is a situation where you've got a blue ocean, which was once business in South Africa, becoming a red ocean. So the difference between a blue ocean and a red ocean is a blue ocean is niche, it's new to you, it's new to the market. A red ocean is basically where the sharks have come in, everyone is attacking each other, there's fierce competition, and all blue oceans eventually become red oceans. But what we have as an advantage is to become or create blue oceans within the sectors that we have and have first mover advantage on it. And there's an opportunity for it right there. We can't go past saying that the war is currently not impacting and affecting us. For those who are going to be traveling around the country are probably going to be fueled on their tax, on the fuel levy, by significant amounts over the next few weeks and months. So the war is having a direct impact on us. As we see the prices of fuel go up, food goes up, and it then becomes a burden on the end user. The ongoing conflict that we see right now in Ukraine and in the Middle East, they're not just tragedies as we see it. They are economic earthquakes, as we term it, and they're reshaping global supply chains in real time. It's not something that's happening in the future, it's happening right now. Shipping costs are increased, energy markets are changing, they're all being disrupted at the moment. There's another guy that I've been following quite recently, his name is Simon Squibb, English guy who talks about people and their dreams and how you achieve it. If you can go and look at his podcast, he's quite a nice guy to follow. And he says that there's a massive global problem at the moment, and where there's massive business opportunity is for those who are able to solve the problem that we experience. Now, Africa, from a perspective, just to give you some statistics to get you thinking on it, is 60% of the world's uncultivated arable land is in Africa. And at a time where global food supplies are under pressure, South Africa, with its infrastructure, with its agricultural technology, with its ports, it has the capacity to position itself as a global food security solution. Now, I'm reminded of a story of how Joseph operated in Egypt. He didn't run from the famine that was experienced. He planned for it. And Egypt became the distribution center for the known world. Now, if you look at some of the bombings that's taking place in some of the Arab countries, significantly impacting their ability to fresh water and clean water. So there's also now a water issue that's there because they rely mostly on desalination water in those particular regions. So just giving you a framework of some of the things that's taking place there. And the question for you is that, are you building the capacity right now? Are you creating or looking at the gaps for global disruption and how those global disruption, the gaps that are being created for you to capitalize on? We are no longer, I think COVID in 2019 was a stark reminder for us that the world is a lot smaller than we think it is. So if you're not considering and looking at global participation in the fields and the areas of influence that you have, working and transcending across time zones, then I think it's a missed opportunity. Now here's an interesting one that I wanted to talk about, which is everyone talks about AI, and it's some people saying, if I hear another AI thing, then, okay, let me not repeat what they say. But there's a negative sentiment to the adoption of technology in the form of AI. Now, AI has moved through its ranks in how it's being utilized. So many of you would know, okay, there's the Grok, there's ChatGPT, there's Gemini, there's Claude, all of these chats or LLMs, which they call them, large language modules. And the first stage of the introduction of AI was using it as a chat function. Let's call that the base. So the base was, I chat, I ask you a question, you give me a response. That's a very fundamental, you can go to Google and ask that. So if you're using it in that sense, I'll tell you, you're already behind the curve, right? What's the second layer? The second layer of AI has to do with integration. So where you use one or more of the tools, so you will use it with, let's say, Zapier. Zapier is an automation tool which manages workflows. So you use your chat with an automation tool and you start integrating certain functionality. It pushes out reports. It maybe does some analysis for you, right? That's the second phase. But we've moved also past that phase. Now we're in a third phase of AI. The third phase of AI has to do with agency. They call them agents. And agents are basically duplicating your function. You can go into your business right now, and you can create automated, digitized chief marketing officer, admin assistant, chief procurement officers, all completely automated. And those will be able to do the function. They'll be able to go into your diary. They will go to schedule, plan events. They'll be able to call customers on your behalf. They'll be able to close the sale without you even being there. That's agency. But they're also very dangerous. So the two leading people right now, and if you want to look at deep research in AI right now, I think Gemini has got it down. They have access to the biggest database of information. So deep research in Gemini, which is Google. If you want to look at creativity, I think ChatGPT is still ranking high on creativity right now. And if you want to look at automation and a refined language model, Claude is by far, Anthropic Claude is by far the leader right now in that field. The stuff that they're doing on Claude, integrated into other programs, is unbelievable. There's Claude Code, so if you guys are into AI, go and search and look. I don't have the time to get into the detail now of what Claude Code is, but Claude Code is able to do and automate your life. There was an example that was used. Claude Code basically was integrated with a program called OpenClaw, right? And OpenClaw is an assistant. It's a digital assistant. But I'm not talking just your normal digital assistants to schedule appointments and all of that. This has the ability to go into your bank account details and make investments on your behalf. That's the type of information. And that's why people are adverse to it, is they're creating mini terminals which are isolated, which has no information or no access to your personal information. So the guy was developing this Claude with this OpenClaw program. The AI tool decided for itself that it doesn't have enough information. It needs to teach itself. It accessed the guy's account. It bought a course for $3,000. It taught itself and then educated it that way. All on its own, without any intervention of a person touching it. So this is some of the things that we obviously need to look at and how it's being utilized. Quick tip in terms of using AI, I have been using it a lot. If you're not utilizing AI in this particular way, then you are not getting the best out of it. Now, there's 4 steps that you need when you're doing it. The first thing that when you're doing in AI is that you need to tell it what type of function you need it to function in. So you need to say, I need you to act as my marketing director, or I need you to act as my social media expert, or my strategy expert. That's the first thing. The second thing, like any new employee that you need to do, is you need to be able to give it context. What's the context? It's like a new employee coming into a company. You need to tell them what it is that you're doing, how you're doing, where it's coming from, what you want to do about it. That's the second thing. The third thing that you need to do is you need to be able to tell it what about what it is that you are doing that you want. Is it an analysis? Is it a report? What is it that you want it to do in that? And the last thing that you need to do is what's the type of output that you need it in. So when you're generating, and what I suggest to you, start generating prompts. I've now generated context files. So there's a very limited memory when it comes to AI. And there's token usage, which is a whole complex matter around how it utilizes certain functionality to generate the responses that it's giving you. Now, when your tokens get used up, that's why when you ask ChatGPT a complex matter, the first few lines are excellent, and then you start seeing it diminishing really quickly. It's because you've utilized your tokens. Now, in Claude Code that I've mentioned to you, if you go and say, give me a competitor analysis on these 9 companies, in ChatGPT, it's going to do it in sequence. In Claude Code, it creates 9 different agents. And each agent now is responsible for that and gives you a very comprehensive response. So utilizing that is important. ChatGPT has reached 100 million users in 2 months. Now, Facebook, to draw a parallel against it, Facebook has done that in 4.5 years to reach the same number. So that's not a trend. It's a revolution that's taking place right now, and it's already here. And in my observation, there's 3 types of business leaders that exist right now. It's one, the avoider. And the avoider is the person who knows that AI exists and keeps doing what they've always done and hope that it won't affect their industry. Second is the dabbler. And the dabbler is the person who downloaded the app, thought that it's very interesting, and went back to the spreadsheets that they know and utilize. And the last is the integrator. And that's the person who asked the ruthless question, what parts of my business can I use and integrate AI with to do faster, better, and cheaper, and has built systems around that particular answer. And this is not a commercial issue that we're talking about. This is a stewardship issue. In the parable of talents, the servant who was rebuked wasn't the one who used his talent wrongly. It was the one who buried it out of fear. And AI is one of those talents in our generation. I really do believe that. So to ignore it, it's not a caution, it's poor stewardship. Summing this up in terms of the opportunities in South Africa, I want to push back against the narrative that has gotten to the bones of too many South African business people. And that's the narrative that says load shedding back then, corruption, unemployment, you need to pack your bags and head downtown. There's a guy who I mentioned earlier, which was Myron Golden. He grew up in deep poverty, and he built a multi-million-dollar business. And he says that circumstances are not your destiny. They're your raw material. And South Africa is not a broken country. It's really where we have raw material. And in the hands of someone that has the vision and skill, raw material can really become something that is extraordinary. An example of a market that is thriving at the moment is the renewable energy gap alone. And it represents hundreds of billions of rands in private enterprise opportunity. The township economy, as an example, it's estimated over 900 billion annually. Largely unstructured and waiting for someone with vision to serve it collectively well. The African Continental Free Trade Area, it opens up a market of 1.3 billion people across 54 nations in Africa. And tourism, with the weak rand that we have, world-class experience is booming, world-class experiences. So the opportunities are real. And the question is not whether they exist or not. The question is whether you'll be the one who steps into them. Now, I've given you the landscape and telling you how the challenges are real, the opportunities that are real as well, but also knowing that the landscape and navigating through it is completely two different things. So knowing it and navigating is two different things. And where our guest speaker, I would say, come in for today, and the host of this particular event, Bradley, together with Malini, because what you're about to hear shortly is not theory, it's life. It's real life. It's lived inside the very landscape that I've described to you now. And before I introduce him, I want to frame the story for you, because I believe that when you understand the frame, you'll receive what he shares in a completely different level. So I want you to get that context, as we mentioned earlier. In 1949, an American scholar named Joseph Campbell. So you'll see I'm going a lot back into history because there's a lot of good authors that were there and wrote books. And he published a book called The Hero with 1,000 Faces. And he studied stories from every culture, every civilization in human history. And he made a stunning discovery. So he was an anthropologist. And every great story he discovered follows the same pattern. Moses, David, Job, even modern-day entrepreneurial stories. So Campbell termed this the hero's journey. And it has 3 acts in it. And these 3 acts are the same script that's followed by every single Hollywood movie. All Hollywood movies that have failed have not followed this script. Right? You think about things, start thinking of Lord of the Rings, when Frodo needed to make a certain delivery. If he had just gone, dropped the ring into the, Mordor? Okay, I'm using bad analogies here. But that would have been the end of it. Luke Skywalker, also the same. You look at these things, there was a journey that they needed to take in. So let's call it Act 1. Act 1 is the call. So the hero has an ordinary life, and then something disrupts it. There's a vision. There's a crisis. There's a sudden loss. And something says your ordinary world is no longer enough. You're being invited or thrusted or pushed into something bigger. Act 1. Act 2, it's the road of trials. And this is where things get hard. This is where setbacks happen. This is where betrayal takes place. And the moments where you start to question everything we spoke about, why? This is where you start returning to that why. And Campbell called this the darkest point, the innermost cave of the entrepreneur or the hero on this journey. And it's the moment where the hero must decide. They have few choices. One of two: do I turn back or do I press through? And every entrepreneur that's here, and business person here in this room, knows this cave that I'm talking about. Act 3, the return. So the hero presses through, comes back transformed, carrying something that only could have been found through this journey that they've gone through. Something that changes not just their life, but now the lives on everyone that they might serve. Your mess becomes your message. And the trials that you survived are not part of the story that you need to hide. They are the most valuable part of the story. Because somewhere in this room, and in every room that you will walk into for the rest of your life, there's someone who needs to know that the cave that they are currently in is not the end of the story. So, ladies and gentlemen, what you're about to hear is not theory. It's real life with a real call, a real road of trials, and a return that has produced something that is genuinely remarkable. Bradley Agalio is a successful entrepreneur, a son, elder in the house, and a businessman also who has built businesses inside this complex South African landscape. He has faced trials we've been talking about all morning. He's been in the cave, he's come back, and he's come back with wisdom, but he's come back with scars. And with the story that I believe that the room needs to hear for us today. So in the language of the hero's journey, you are about to meet a returned hero. In the language of the kingdom, you're about to hear from someone who has allowed God to author his story and discover the author of life that wrote the story that he's about to tell us. And that any of us, and tell it better than any of us that could have ever written ourselves. So please welcome Brad to the stage. Give him a round of applause and a business breakfast welcome.
Thanks, Alton. Thank you. Thank you, Alton and Chandra. I think they deserve a warm round of applause. When Alton said he was talking about me and then mentioned the year 1948, I thought he was going to say that's the year I was born. I was going to tell him he's got that totally wrong. But I'd like you to do something for me and do it with me. Maybe you can just stand. And there's practicality in what we do as business people, as everyday people. Just stand, maybe just shake up a bit here. Just go and introduce yourself to someone quickly that you haven't met. Come on, just shake it up a bit. That's good. If you've done that, you can just now take a seat. Welcome. I intentionally didn't give Alton a profile of myself because I'm modest or any form of piety, but I'm generally a person who doesn't like to go about doing that. I think the application of one's life is creditable in how they live. I once heard someone say that the best way to read the Bible is to read the person. And I think it would be remiss of me this morning if I first didn't give homage and also pay tribute to our father, Mauni and I, our spiritual father, Pastor Thamun Marolan. I think we are byproducts of the grace that they carry. And so for those of you who are sons in this house, it's truly what an amazing privilege that we've been curated in the image of God, in his likeness, the very barak of who God is, but what we do in the fabrics of how we carry ourselves has much to do with who our spiritual fathers are and the compliance of a heavenly order and what we adjudicate and administrate on planet Earth. There is a lot of vocab, but I also want to acknowledge two of our pastors that are with us this morning. They're probably the biggest business gurus. They are undercover. We don't know about it, because they're about their father's business. And I'd like us just to put our hands together and also welcome and say thank you to Pastor Chris and Pastor Henry, who's joining us this morning. Thank you. I heard someone once say that you can change your job 1,000 times, but you'll still have the same boss, your wife. So having said that, I want to say a special welcome to my wife, Malini. Thank you for being here with me. She had to do the mommy duties and drop off both my kids, Shiloh and Ruel. In the narration of what I speak, you also get the gist of some of the things that I'm saying, so you must pay attention. So I'm going to be a bit everywhere this morning, but the beauty is to try and catch what I'm saying, because I don't want to be scriptive, and Alton did an assiduous job, impeccable, and there's a reason why we asked him to compare this morning. He's an encyclopedia of knowledge. What a business silo. I think he deserves another warm round of applause. I have one wife and 2 kids, Shiloh and Ruel, and their kids think their dad is a superstar because I'm the typical guy that doesn't offer the correction, and the mom does that as well. By nature, my wife, in fact, let me say this here. Whilst I believe that God qualifies the unqualified, in today's forum, I'm looking at some of you, and I'm talking to some of you in the corridors and at the brekkie, and I know some of you intimately and personally. I feel the least qualified to stand amongst you and speak and share some business insights, because you probably have your own story to tell. And the reason I say that, my wife is highly successful. Not that she married me. I was the geologist who was the gold digger who married her. But she continues studying and has a chemical degree, engineering degree background. Was a chem engineer at Sassel, and then decided to retire about 2 years ago. She did an MBA, and now, she, as she put it to me, is reading for her doctorate. Did I get it right? Did I get it right? Okay, so Mani continues studying. So let me say this first. If you hear this morning, one of the credible things I tell people in business 101s, the first thing you got to do in life is you got to show up. The second thing in life, you got to look the part. Okay, so I suck at golf, but what I do is before we tee off, I show up and I look the part. So you want to be good at what you do, you got to look up. You got to show the part. So by being here this morning, you have already ticked a box of showing your hunger and your enthusiasm to be here. And a lot of people fail to do that. They know how to talk the talk, but they can't walk it. And showing up is such an incredible thing. As I go through as well, and I've intentionally not structured my presentation this morning. It's not even a presentation. I'm just going to speak very candidly. I'm just going to speak as open as I can. And you can even interject, but use the forum that we've created to put questions through. And as I get it, I'll really stop and try and answer the questions, because I don't want to be structured this morning. I've been in business for 18 years. Since 2008, and it's an incredible story, because I'm actually a PK, I'm a pastor's kids. So by clergy and by rank, I should be, if it was Levitical order, I should have been a pastor. But I decided, when growing up in the charismatic seasons, where growing up as a pastor's kid, you wanted to do everything but not be a pastor, if you understand that. And I remember one day saying to my dad, I said to him, I will never want to be a pastor growing up. And I said to him, because one day when I grow up and I use a Rolex watch and drive a supercar, no one will think I use the church's money. But not, unbeknown to me, little did I know, and I'm not diminishing the call or the order or the calling of ministry. I said it in the context of where we were and the polluted and corroded manner in how people saw members of the clergy and people of the cloth. But let me say to you, it's one of the highest calls in life to be in ministry. And let me tell you something, that in the marketplace, your pulpit is the marketplace. So we believe in a kingly and a priestly anointing, so you are endowed and blessed with both. So in the corporate space that you are, God has strategically placed you into positions where you get to talk to people that may never ever come into this environment. So never ever diminish where you are, never ever despise where you are, never feel that you are not called, because you are called. And so whilst I don't really want to get into too much of the biblical side of this, because you should be well galvanized, we are coming out of a series, probably 14 sessions of biblical economics. You should be a theologian and a business encyclopedia about the kingdom of finance and how to administrate it and the compliance of that. So I don't want to duplicate that. So what I will encourage you, and let me also say this, a warm welcome to those of you that are not part of the GSM family or Gate Global family. I've seen some faces. Thank you for coming. We really want to appreciate and honor you. Will we just put our hands together and say welcome? I was saying to someone that the culture of our home, if you had a great breakfast, you'll see that we spell meetings with M-E-A-T. So I hope you had a sumptuous breakfast. Alton was speaking about China, and again, this is why it's good that I'm just going to just free roll. Napoleon once said, in context to China, he said, "Let the dragon sleep, for if she awakens, she will take over the world." And China is rather dichotomous because the industry set that I come from, our supply chain is almost 100% China-based or Asian-based. So we are predominantly reliant on China because they're a superpower. They're brilliant at what they do. They're really brilliant at what they do. But they're dichotomous because I believe, and you can write this down, there's some of my phrase words, coined words, phrases, that there's an Uberization of the supply chain. The supply chain is getting smaller and smaller. So e-commerce, things like AI, has now warranted that it's so easy to cross-border transact. Back in the day, you needed to jump on a plane, get to Asia. By the time you talk to the principal suppliers, try to get their products, it was a lot. So you became very, very credible, almost like a godlike effect when you sit in front of the customer. Nowadays, the customer really doesn't really need you to do a lot. They can do it a lot. They can do a lot, right? You agree? So I said to someone once, it was an audacious statement in the business set that I come from. I said, the margins that we're selling at currently and the extended payment terms that we're giving customers, I believe that we've moved away from becoming a technology company selling to becoming a trade finance company. We're financing transactions. So you need to be critical of how you're managing this. So when we talk about China, there's many things to look at, the good and the bad. And if you look at Africa, I once saw a heat hub where they showed on the map of Africa with red dots where China is present. And literally, China is almost all over Africa. So you have to be wary of the looming threats and trends in the marketplace. And whilst technology is such a credible, viable means of communication and technology, and you have to be technology-driven, you have to be tech-savvy in business. You can't be obsolete. You've got to move with the times. But you've got to make sure that your compliance and how you use it must be at a point where you also engage with human transactions. So again, nice to have my wife with us as well, and she's such a brilliant workforce with me. We total opposites in how we see things, but the beauty is that you've got to have someone next to you. I paid my school fees in business for the 18 years, and that's why I'm going to allow you to ask me some questions, and I'll make myself very, very vulnerable and try my best to answer those questions. But one of the things I've learned in business over the 18 years, trust your wife. Get her opinion. For those of you in business, and if you're starting up business, if you want to ask me that question, what are some of the things that you'd say to people? I'll always say is that, first, whilst there's a heavenly compliance to your business and your structure, always make sure that you get your wife's opinion on things. Don't get into business. I always encourage people, and again, let me put a disclaimer out because this is my opinion and how I see things. I don't believe that you should get into business or in partnership. I always like to believe that you should be the business owner. In most cases, if you can do that. Otherwise, it becomes dichotomous. You have too many people involved in the transaction unless you hear from God and you hear God telling you this. A couple days ago, I listened to a podcast by Dr. Sean Joint. He's a lecturer at SATS. And it was titled about wellness in the workplace. And I was listening to him rather late at night, and my wife was sitting next to me, and she was listening in as well. And one of the things he spoke about was neuroplasticity. And in simple words, what it basically means, it's basically showcasing that, and I know we have some doctors here, but it's basically showcases that the ability or how brilliant and amazing your brain is to change, to adapt, and to reorganize itself by forming new neural connections throughout life, allowing you to learn from skills and memories. And so one of the things I want to say to you, that when you look at potential and you look at your life, Miles Monroe once said that the greatest place or the richest place on earth is not banks, it's the grave. Because people don't use their true capacity and potential in life. So when you go back and you look at your brain, and if you have to get a recap of it, you are probably, and I don't want to say it, let me speak to me, I'm probably maybe using only 10% of my brain capacity. So you need to push yourself harder and harder and harder in life. So when you talk about business and you talk about your application in life and how much you're doing, don't talk about fatigue. You've got to put more and more, because your mind, and God is the greatest engineer. He's the mastermind. As the manufacturer, when He put you together, He created you into such a forum that you can push yourself harder and harder and harder. So don't be afraid to push beyond the status quo of normality. I have a problem. If you study entrepreneurs, and like Alton alluded to, there's so many books that you can read and case study business and serial entrepreneurs. One of the things, if you talk to them, a lot of them, the congruency or the commonality or the golden thread about them is that they're hard workers. They're a very hard-working individual. My late dad once told me, he said, I never saw anyone drown in their own perspiration. Do you hear that? And I listen to a lot of people who want to make money, but they can't work hard. If you think making money is easy, think again. If you think being in business is easy, think again. And that's why the advice that business leaders will give to you is that if you feel there's a quick, rich scheme to making money, review it, because you've got to pay your school fees, you've got to work hard. My wife often says to me that I'm a dream slayer when it comes to people and if they want advice on business, because I'm hardcore about it. One of the things I will tell people, and so you must write this down. If a person comes to you and tells you they want to make money and how do you make money, the first thing ask them or tell them you want to check is their socks drawer. Let me explain to you why. If you can't keep your socks drawer in order and you don't have a knowledge of your inventory of your socks and how you're keeping them, you're not a good steward to make any money. You will suck at socks. You get it? So you got to break your life down. Successful people are people that are habitual. They are people of habit. In fact, entrepreneurs are very impatient. Henry Ford once said, success is failure turned inside out. He said, when you lose sight of your vision, all that you will see is obstacles. So successful people don't like the word no. They don't like the word cannot. They don't like the word. They're the most impatient people on the planet. One of my Achilles heels is impatience. I will talk over you if I believe you're saying something that I can't agree with. And it's not a good trait. But successful people only see one thing, the end goal. And they want to get to the end goal quickly. So when you say you can't, I'll show you how I can. So one of the things of successful people is that they have the innate ability to push forward continuously, regardless. You know, in sporting terms, we call it BMT, right? You've got to have the BMT in life. So successful people are driven to such a degree that they don't need to get anyone's opinion on a matter. Now, that's an audacious statement. But they're so hell-bent by their vision. I used the word when I started my journey. I said to people that 18 years ago, I was so possessed, that's the word, by my vision, that nothing could deter me. So much so that even when I looked at my bank account, I wasn't moved. My wife was, but I wasn't. So you've got to be critical where you've got to be critical on yourself. Successful people are the hardest on themselves. Successful people dream. And they will charge you to dream. They're good at it. So you've got to put all these things together. Going back to the doctor that I just mentioned, his name, and I told you that what he spoke about the beauty of the mind. You've got to go back and look at yourself and say, how much am I utilizing my time on a day-to-day basis that I am pushing to the maximum? Average people always complain. Have you heard that? Never ask them how they're doing. They've got 100 reasons to tell you how bad they are. In fact, I believe that busyness does not equal to profitability. Many people you talk to, they're so busy. They're busy doing nothing. A happy dog chasing its tail is not doing nothing. Hear this? The wolf running up the hill is always more hungry than the wolf sitting on top of the hill. Be very, very careful whenever you are. If you get to the pinnacle of where you are, you become complacent. Always be in a position of running up a hill, figuratively, because you must always be pushing, harder. So always be in the position of movement. Say the word movement. And those are important things. So I'm going to try and do some practical things with you this morning, and I'll talk a bit about my journey and how you get to where you are. But what I can tell you is that, when I talk about my journey, it is nothing short of divine grace. You'd often hear me, if you spoke to me on a one-on-one, I'll tell you that I'm an average guy that knew how to run with grace. There's a slide that I have, and it's not the first slide. But I'll get to that slide just now. I think it's slide 3. Can you just put up slide 3? It starts with visionaries. There you go. It says, visionaries see into the future, but entrepreneurial grace has the ability to bring it into the present. And then there's 2 words here, business intuition with prophetic grace. I tell people that in the abundance of grace, you know what grace is. You understand what grace is. We've done Pastor Tom has done a massive series on grace and understanding that grace is almost like a divine heavenly currency in which you transact on earth. I say that when you learn how to shadow heaven, you will shine on the earth. And so when you learn how to do that, to be a big image, we were created in the image, the barak of God. And so we are basically plenipotentiaries. We have executorship over and custody of planet earth. So when you talk with the grace, with the substance, with the dabar, and you talk with the authority that God has given you. If you look at the books, I think it's Exodus 8, when Moses said, let your people go. I'll tell you a secret. Whenever I'm driving with one of my members and we're going into a meeting, that's my mentality when I go into a boardroom or business meeting. I talk with the grace, let my people go. Because I'm here to take what belongs to me. So you've got to own the ability. And when you have business intuition, because you've got to be, listen, if you want to be great at what you do, you've got to learn the applied skill, and you've got to continuously learning. So you can't just have faith to be a business person. Okay? Let's be real about it. You've got to do some work. You've got to make an effort. You've got to go. If your target market, you've got to understand the CDMP, the customer decision-making process. You've got to understand the pricing, the dynamics, the supply chain, what gives you your competitive edge in the marketplace. You've got to do value added. What's the value add? Why deal with you? So you've got to know all of this. You've got to be able to articulate. But when you be able to mix this business intuition, study the word intuition, break it down into the English liturgy of what the word is. But here's the beautiful thing. I always tell people, I applied business intuition with prophetic grace. Because then go and study the word prophetic, to see, to foresee things, to discern things with grace. Not just this unmerited favor. You've understood what we've been speaking about. That you'll be able to become formidable in the marketplace. So one of my success stories is that I know how to run with grace. And those are things that you can do in life. So here's the thing as well. Let's get to slide 1. One of the fundamental things that we talk about in business, and I'm going to play a slide just now. Alan Mills once said, he said, turnover, one of the first things I heard someone say to me about 20 years ago, and it just stuck to me, and I remembered it like you have no idea. They say, turnover is vanity, gross profit is sanity, but operating capital is reality. And there's some AI transactions there that you can read, AI overview, so you can read that as well. You need money to make? If you talk about all business guys here as well, and by show of hands, how many of you are currently in business? Great, pay your first fruits. One of the things all of you who've paid your school fees will realize, you need money, operating capital. Most people need, and that's one of the hindrances of why people don't do better, because you'll always hear them, I'm stuck on cash, I need money, I need to pay the creditor. We live by selling, but make our profits out of purchasing, and I'll get to that line, or remind me to tell you that, or how you need to buy better. But money makes money. So you've got to learn the secrets to how to be a good custody over financial wealth and wealth creation, wealth generation. And when you talk about money, there are principles that you need to apply in order to do better. Because the bank's not going to give you a loan that easy. You get it, right? one of my Achilles heels. When I started my business 18 years ago, it was by default. I always say this, always leave the corporate at the top of your game. I did that. Leave it credibly, leave it notably, leave on a good, because how you close one door is how you open another. The principle, we reap what we sow. And when you talk about compliance and you talk about ethics and value systems as well, it's very important in life. When I left the company that I joined, I woke up one morning and I told Mani, I'm going to leave my job. And I was a director at an electronic company, technology company, and they paid for my relocation to move to Johannesburg, because my wife and I had married in 2006. Yes, I got it right. And we lived a year and a half apart, and then I had to relocate from Durban to Johannesburg, and the company where I was a director at offered me a position. They created a position for me to be based here just down the road. How prophetic, right? Profound. If you want to, add some drama to the story. Right? And that's where I was based. And I said to her, I'm going to leave my job and I want to start a new company. And I had a business partner. That's why I say don't get involved with business partners who offer the capital. It was a nightmare as well. Oh my God, what a story. That's a story for another day. But then I had to get a startup company. And then I needed capital because I was earning a phenomenal salary. Phenomenal salary. There was no reason for me to leave. But that's why I say don't leave. A lot of people leave their jobs in crisis and then say, I want to get into business. I need to test the motive there. Get into business when you're at the top of your game and say, no, because I know I can do this. And of course, you need to do the one-on-ones. You've got to pray about it. If you have a spiritual father, a business mentor, talk to them about it. So don't be a lone ranger. Talk about it, right? And get your wife's blessings or your spouse's blessings. And when I decided to do that, I remember I had this big idea. I knew that I could do this, and the field that I chose was technology. Why? Because I came from a field of technology, so I knew the market, I knew the bit of the dynamics, but I knew the Durban market, not the Johannesburg market. And there I am now relocating from Durban to Johannesburg. So what happened to me when it comes to capital? Let me tell you what happens. Only your wife and your mother will be stupid enough to believe your vision. Let me qualify that. My mom, I just lost my dad, and that's why I said I'm going to make myself vulnerable to you this morning, because you want to hear the real story. My mom took a loan, an access bond on her house, and we had just lost my dad, for 1.5 million. True story. For 1.5 million, this is 20 years ago. 1.5 million. And I remember what she said to me. She said, son, I trust you. And yes, I'm going to do this for you. And she says, this is all I have. This is all your dad left. Now imagine, she just lost my dad. This is all my dad gave her. And I'm now about to take a loan against that house. And my wife, who was earning much more money than I was, she was the breadwinner, had to sign sureties. That's why I'm still in partnership with my wife. And she always reminds me as a shareholder in our business about that story. My wife signed sureties as well, and then I was able to get that 1.5 million. As quickly as that money came, so whilst I was already possessed by my vision, because you need to have your own oomph in life to get ahead, I was also drawn by a moral compass that I could not fail. I'd be letting two people down that mean the world to me. When you talk about business, there are stakeholders in your life around you. Let's take the first application of stakeholders, your family. You're a breadwinner, you're a provider, your kids need to go to school, to university. You've got to provide for them. So you take all these things and it's called fuel to be successful. I tell my staff, when I make decisions, I make it not just for me. I count everyone in their family, including their children, and I have a number in my head, and that's the number. I'm accountable for that number. Because the decisions you make do not just affect you, it affects. In fact, if you go to biblical order, it affects your whole lineage. I'm contributing to the successes of my lineage. I told my sons, I don't just name them the Agalio, that they'll carry through in the lineage. In what I'm doing now, I am shaping and making critical decisions that will change the dynasty of my lineage. Because I'm a generational changer. I said to them, sons, I will write things down together with mom for you. My kids are 15 and 14, that in business principles and biblical principles, this legacy will live on generationally, and you will take my book, and you will pass it through our lineage. That's what the Jews are good at. They're very good at doing that. And so what I did was I took that loan. So when you talk about cash and capital startup, that's how I started. And let me tell you what I did. As quickly as that 1.5 million came to me, that's how quickly it went because I had creditors to pay. I'd started a business. I received my first delivery. So let me tell you what I did because we didn't tell you what I do. So I'm not the owner of the company. I'm a steward. I'm going to explain this to you. Anything that you own, you do not own. You are a steward of it. By biblical rank and understanding, God places you and gives you custody over something to manage. You are primarily a steward over it. That's why when we are called, we are distributors of grace. We dispensate grace. We dispensate wealth. As soon as you believe that you have full ownership over it, that is the starting point to your demise. That is why when I pray every morning, I say, Lord, everything that is under our custody, under our command, under our reach, that we speak to that environment, bless it. So as soon as that money came, as quickly as it came, it was gone. I owed people money, DHL, and back then, how many of you know, they say, now if anyone's in the banking sector, in the fiscal sector here, in the banking sector, oh good, then I can say it. They say, the analogy of a bank is like this. A bank is someone who gives you an umbrella on a sunny day and takes it away on a rainy day. I remember in my startup business, they asked me for 3 years financials. I said to them, I don't think you understand. I just said I'm starting a company. And so they say, okay, give me your bank statements. I'm like, which one? Like, okay, how much capital do you have? I'm like, cap what? I need money. Can you loan me money? Because here's my idea. I've wrote 100 pages to you. I can't remember the name of those companies. I wrote pages to them. I mean, I put case studies that professors would pass. Business case that was bulletproof on how we can make money. The only thing they want to know is that, how much money do you have? So listen to me. And I say this with all modesty now. Then the banks come to you now when you have money, offering you lots of money. And then you say to them, what's wrong with you? I don't need the money now. You get it? So it was a very difficult journey. And then I jumped up on a plane and I went to China. I remember my wife, our son was just a hand baby. And I get to China, never meeting anyone. Didn't even know suppliers. I went up to these shows. They had lots of trade shows 18, 19 years ago, and I hit the trade show. And I'm going to tell you a bit of the story because I've got lots of notes, but I'm going to tell you the story. And I jumped on a plane because I said to Malini, I'm going to go to these trade shows that are in Hong Kong and China, and I'm going to walk around and meet the Chinese at the electronic shows because, semiconductor manufacturers. So what ICOP is as well, we offer technologies. We sell hardware and software solutions to companies. Let me layman it for you. If anyone in South Africa is making an electronic product, they need components to make it. So the contract manufacturer needs to make it. So if they were making the cell phone in South Africa, ICOP, we'd be able to supply everything to make it. I won't make it, but I'll supply all the componentry to make it. That's called hardware. Our supply chain is in China, Asia, all around there. And so we fly the components in. So we offer the hardware, we sell you the hardware, we'll offer you integration for the software, but we won't make it. We'll lead you to the CM, the contract manufacturer, and the product gets made in South Africa. And why am I happy with that? Because it's a proudly South African product. Anything that you do in business must make not just sense for profitability and money, cha-ching, it must offer value. Your moral compass must tell you, what am I doing to create or make a difference to society? Because if you're not adding value, if you don't think like that, then you've got to relook at it. Because when I look at me, what do? We offer componentry, we offer technology that makes our world safer, better, smarter. I send my kids, I say I trust the product so much that I send my most prized possessions in a car that has a tracking unit on it. And my technology is involved in the tracking unit. So for safety, you see how I apply something that makes sense. So whatever your business is, you have to ask yourself, what value am I selling to people across this table? Because the first thing people want to hear is value, right? And here's another thing. Don't sell me something if you don't believe in it. Don't sell me something if you don't believe in it. Because the passion of people convert their passion into a product at a price. Okay? Everything is about passion. The reason why you're not doing well is because you're not selling your passion. No matter what field you put me to, and I'm not a hairdresser, nor am I a stylist, but if you made me a hairdresser, I'll become extremely good at it. Why? Entrepreneurs are habitual people. They study hard, they do well, and they follow through on it and I'm passionate. Create a passion. So anything that you want to do, and if you want to be successful, you need to create a passion. So let me not digress. I got on that plane to China, and I remember I took the cheapest possible flight. In fact, this was so economy that every time someone used the loo, I could hear them. How many of you know those flights? When you start off in business, you got to pay your school fees. Okay? The cheapest possible flight. I stayed in one of the most dingiest hotels that you could ever find in my life. It was the most crazy story. And I remember, I got my business suit on. Remember what I said? Look the part. I got my business suit. I got my cards. I'm walking around like crazy, trying to meet people. It was my first one, my first trip. And then every time you go, it's like a candy store. You're seeing all these catalogs, and there's technology, there's products. You want to talk to everyone. But I kind of see the big guys, but nobody's talking to me. And then I realized, like, the big guys, you have to make a meeting with them. They got to know your company. If they don't know you, you just... You're a sojourner. You're just walking. You're just walking, and there's meeting rooms. I'm like trying to get to the meeting room, like no. And then I'm carrying all these catalogs around, and I'll never forget my first trip to China. This was about 18 years ago. My first trip to China. Man, I've got all these catalogs. They're probably about 30, 40, 50 kilograms worth of stock, right? And I'm very naive now. Now I want to take it back on my flight with me, and then they tell me, no, you economy class. I'm like, what does that mean? They mean, no, you need to pay for this baggage. I said, sure, man. Then I saw the bill to take my stuff back. It was worth more than my plane ticket. So here's me on my knees in the middle of the airport in China. I'm tearing all the pages of catalogs that I think could work for me, right? Because there's no phone to click the picture. And I'm like, and I got it there. And then I put it in my bag and I get there. I'll tell you another story. On my next, one of the trips that I made, let me tell you about how poor I was and how tough life was, because you're seeing this side of me. You always say, go back to chapter 1. Go back to chapter 1 in a person's story. I remember that it was so tough for us, because when you start up a business, you've got to come and sell the product. You've got to learn the business. It's not easy. And then what happened was, I remember that on the second trip, I got smarter, so I realized how I needed to carry catalogs, what I needed to take, and I told someone this story. It's a true story, because I carried about 3 business suits and a couple things, but I was flying economy class as well. I flew a 14-hour flight from Hong Kong to Johannesburg wearing 3 suits. Listen, because I decided that I needed more space, and the only way to take the samples and the catalogs with me was to try and put as much as clothes that I could on. This is a true story. Not many people have heard this story. My wife knows this story. How I sat on a 14-hour flight, super economy flight. I'm desperate to succeed. I'm hungry. That was what I did. And when I came, and then I decided to throw clothes that I need not. So I saw my 1 torn socks. I said, tear it more, throw it away, because I can do that. And then whatever cosmetics, throw away, pack compact. So why? The beauty was all my catalogs. They became like they were the best things ever. So this is where I'm coming from. I remember the one time I was probably year 2 or 3 in business, and I phoned Malini, and she checked on me, and she said, how are you doing? Because one of my friends said to me, because to live in Hong Kong is very expensive when you go on shows. One of the most expensive places in the world when you're there in business. So a Chinese mate of mine who's expat South African said, listen, there's a hostel here. I said, hostel? Oh my God. He said, no, it's a really nice place. Go and stay there. It was somewhere, I think it was in where about in Hong Kong? I can't remember. Maybe outside of Wan Chai, I think it was there. And he said, no, it's a decent place, safe. I said, okay, great. And I'll never forget, I got into the place, the car dropped me off there, and I got my bag, I got my business suit on, I'm getting to the hotel. I walk into this place as well, and it was a hostel as well. There's like 20 rooms, and there's like people all over there. It's like a movie thing. You get there, oh my God. And I've got my business suit on. There's people running around. There's kids running around. The only thing I didn't see was livestock running in that place. Mauni called me, and I remember I got into my room. This is a true story. When she said to me, describe your room, because she said, how does it look? I said, no, I'm on the inside of a building where I think it's a quadrant, and the atrium is inside of the loft. So when I open my window, I can't see anyone or anything. I can just see like a 19 stories down, and it's like a protected, so it looked like I was in prison. She said, describe the room. I said, Miles, let me explain to you. From my bed, if I put my one leg out and I extend it, I can touch the toilet seat. True story. She said to me, she said, listen, I'll move you immediately. I'll put some money into your account. Just get out of there. Go to a place because you're going to be there for 3 weeks or 4 weeks. I used to go at 6 weeks at a time. She said, do it. And I said, no. It must cost you something. And then I remember I met someone at the show, a very prominent person who then became a good supply chain partner to me in that season of my life, because life is about seasons. Let me stop there for a moment. You get into business with some people, they're not going to be with you in business forever. They're just going to be there for a season and enjoy that and learn how to endure that when you're not with them, because that's the way seasons work, okay? And then what happened was the guy said to me after, he said, let me drop you off at your hotel. I said, oh, thank God I can save on some fees, because I walk every day because of at 4 or 5 p.m. traffic in Hong Kong is standstill. So if you take a cab, you will pay like ridiculous amounts. I was about to take I jumped in the car, and then I realized, oh my God. He said, where do you live? I jumped off quickly out of the cab. I said, no, you know what? I've got to go back to the show. I've got catalogs to pick up. Because imagine me giving him my address. I needed to create this image. How many of you have been down this road? So let me tell you something. When you want to get to the top, you've got to pay your school fees. You've got to work as hard as you possibly can. And then I began to get better and better in business, grow in business, and I decided to do better. And then over a period of time, I grew and grew and grew. And I worked hard. I remember repping in Johannesburg. It was difficult for me because I started a new company, startup company, newly married, newborn baby, at a new church, new environment, and a geography and new customers, because I didn't even know Joburg. I would drive with that Joburg book. You know, the map of Joburgs, right? No GPS and Waze and all there back then, 18 years. And I'm trying to find customers. And then I'd finally get to the customer. And as you get to the customer, you realize, it was the cultural dynamics of Joburg market is a different narrative to the Durban market. And I had to get used to understanding the customer dynamics, and it was quite a lengthy, long experience. And I used to work 18 hours a day. 18 hours a day. I can't remember the year, but I ended up in hospital, and people assumed, the doctor even said, because they did an angiogram and said that I suffered a mild heart attack. It wasn't necessarily the case, because I believe it was severe sleep deprivation. I got into my office and literally collapsed. Sleep deprivation. I was working 18, 19 hours a day. My first couple of years of our marriage, Marnie would call me, I'd be in the office, she would go to bed, and now I'm not advocating that you must be a bad husband. Do not, please, you must find balance in life. You need to understand balance. I'm just telling you my story of where I was. She would go to bed almost every night, and my food would be in the microwave. So if you want to be in business, and if you want to start up your company, or if you're currently in business, if you're not prepared to work hard, find something else to do. You got it? Are you with me? So I want to get to some other points now in business and tell you about it, but that's just part of my journey. And I changed the company from zero into a multi-million-dollar company. I'm going to say this to you as well, and it will be an audacious statement, but I'm not confident in myself. I'm confident in the God that I serve and my compliance to a heavenly order, that no matter in which environment you put me in or which marketplace you put me in, I will be successful. I told someone told me one day, they said to me, Bradley, no matter which company we put you in, you will do well. Our business, where we're able to migrate, and I'll talk about migration and how to be careful in a disruptive environment, or if you do product segmentation or you do market or product diversification, be careful, because dilution sometimes makes it non-compliant. So be careful not to become a jack of all trades and a master of none. Be a specialist in the field that you're assigned to do. I've often seen people who start up companies and are starting their business, they want to do everything. I ask them one question, what do you do? They are talking about every product that they can do, and then they're trying to do this, and then they're trying to do that, and they're trying to do this, and I realize that you're on the wrong trajectory. They say in business, let the main thing be the main thing. So stay in your field of expertise. If you're good at doing something, find it, and then whilst you're in that field of business, look at how you can synergistically apply business. For example, if you are in the food and beverage industry and you're selling bunny chows, as an example, and you sell 150 bunnies a day, and you're selling 1,000 bunnies a month. And all you do is that you buy the bunnies, you buy the bread, and you use the bread with the meat, the curry, and you do that. And if you know your IP is in the cooking, right? That's your IP, right? Then what you do? The clever thing to do is after a period of time and say, okay, what's the next thing I can do to add to my GP, right? Is to do this here. Is to either buy smarter, because we live by selling and make our profits out of purchasing, either go to the bakery and negotiate a better deal, or buy the bakery. Because if you buy the bakery and buy the bread and make the bread, you are now in control of 70 or 80% of your revenue or your product, the value of your product. Your landed cost becomes cheaper. So that's a clever strategy of business or business diversification. But what you don't want to do is try and do stupid things. There's a CEO of a tracking company this week. We saw it out in the press as well. I won't mention the company as well. But the guy who owns a massive tracking company in South Africa diversified in his business, and he bought an insurance company just this week. And that's a good business strategy of where you're selling vehicles, but you're now selling the insurance as well with the tracking. See, that's a good example. So be careful not to be over the top. I want to do some very simple things as well, because time's against me and I didn't even have a chance to go through my notes. But I'm going to share a lot of my notes with you that I've got, if you want my notes. Because as you go on in life, you make notes and you write them down. I want to encourage you to always write down your notes, pen your thoughts, do that because it helps you. Just put up slide 4 quickly. Starts with yesteryear we sold. Yeah, this is one of my lines I always tell people. Yesteryear we sold, today we solve, tomorrow we deliver the future. I tell people, I say I live in the future, but I buy airtime from the present. I live in the future, but I buy airtime from the present. Never be afraid to dream. I'm a big dreamer. I'm always forward planning and thinking everything. So good leaders, they work the vision in. It's like the Bible. God works the vision in, we have to work the vision out. And the good thing with good leaders, they're always forward thinking. They're already in the future. So whatever I'm doing in business, I'm already forward thinking what needs to happen in the next 2 years. We look at our financial year, we run our fiscals. We in year 18 of our business. We run our fiscals European style, July to June. And I'm already thinking about financial year 2021, and we're looking at numbers, crunching numbers, what the market is doing. If you look at the GDP of South Africa, we grew Q4 in 2025, I think from 1.4, 1.5%. We're growing up this year, it's going to be 1.6%. The lowest performing industry set last financial year was the manufacturing sector. And one of the reasons for that, or the contributing factor for that, is because of the implosion of China into our market. Some of the biggest car manufacturers are exiting manufacturing sectors in South Africa because of China. So these are some of the lines. Put the slide back as well. There you go. In business, it's simple. You're either capable or culpable. When you look at a person in business, I can tell you, I interview people and I talk to people in business. In a minute, I can, now don't come to me and ask me after post this, can you tell me if I'm cut off to be in business? No. But in the forum where I am, in a minute, I can tell if someone is going to be a business guy, a serial business entrepreneur. This guy's a time waster. She's a time waster. In other words, they're wishful thinking, right? They're wishful thinking, right? Alton spoke about the doers and people that do things, and you can tell people that are not cut out to be in business. And my encouragement to you, there's nothing wrong. It's not an indictment of you if you're not the business leader, but you're great at what you do. God has called you to be the best at what you can do. Because let me tell you something, the greatest respect and kudos you give to someone who's in a toilet, right, in a public space as well, right, and you go there and he says to you, sir, welcome to my office. As you use the loo, he opens up the tap in a graceful manner, stands aside, waits for you to finish, rips up that serviette or the hand towel for you to wipe your hand in the most dignified manner, offers it to you and says, sir, have a good day. That there is a guy that's performing to his optimal levels in the arena that he's called to be in. You get that? So no matter where you are, whatever you do it to your best. And this is what's different. That is why I say to people, if you want to talk to me about business, show me your life. If you can't keep your car clean, you can't manage your car's falling apart, how am I going to look at you when you show up to business and you're all shabbily dressed? I always tell people, my sales guys, I always say, a prophet with laryngitis isn't a good prophet. You can't hear him properly. When you go to a business meeting, if you're not looking the part, if you're there late, shabbily dressed up, bad breath, looking like you didn't wake up yet as well, I'm not even going to take you serious. I'm not even going to invite you further for a meeting. So you must make sure that your credentials are good. You must be clean, crisp. You must think about it. Business is about strategy. A lot of people don't realize is that as we are moving in business, business is so strategy. You think about business, you can think about warfare tactics, because business, the art of war in business, go and read the book as well. It'll show you that every time you do something, even before you send an email, stop, pause, breathe, think. Formulate your structure, formulate a plan, devise a plan. Even if you're going to see a customer, think about the strategy. While I'm on that, when we talk about pricing strategies, some customers, no matter what price you offer to them, even if you gave them it for free, it's still expensive. So we're all going through the same challenges. This is such a Machiavellian type of business industry said that you need the grace of God to help you through a lot of things. So let me tell you something, that the warfare that we face sometimes, to have a moral compass, a compliance of a godly order is not easy. I once said to the CEO of one of the largest corporates that I deal with, I said that my business is not merited on the economy of your company, but it is merited on the divine economy of God. He looked at me and I looked at him and we didn't say anything further. I went back and said to my guys, keep an eye and see if the account was paid at the end of the month. So when we talk about things as well, and when we do things like this, and you're studying, all of you are studying business, and you're reading things as well, and you're case studying a whole lot of people, that's good to do that, because the more business you read, the more stuff you read, and you talk to real life people, the better it is. And I say this and understand this in the context of what I'm saying now. Please understand this in the context of the business environment. If you look at the phone, they say, my father used to tell me, he said, show me your friends, I'll show you your future. Show me who you hang around with, and I'll tell you whether you're going to be successful. If you want to be a business entrepreneur and you want to be a serial expert in business, show me your friends. If you're not hanging around with the business guys, that's why I said use this in context now, okay? If you join people who play paddle, what's the chance of you playing paddle, guys? So if you show me your phone, and then the question I'm going to ask you, pick up your phone and show me, no, not now, but show me 5 people that you work with that make six figures. Because if you want to make six figures, you need to hang around people that make what? 6 figures. Okay? You get it? You've got to talk to people now, and that's why I said apply this with caution. Don't delete people off your phone from tomorrow morning saying you're a 3-figure. You are wasting my energy. What is wrong? 10 years I'm talking to you on WhatsApp. Out. Okay, I'm not saying that. But you want to join successful people. If you want to be successful, join successful people. When FSPs come to me and from the banks and they want to sell me value-added products on wealth management and how to make more money, and I look at them and they look at me and I give them that look in the eye, and they know I'm going to ask them this question, I'm going to say to them, and this is what you normally ask. Can I say this sincerely, in all humility? If someone's selling you a fiscal product, please ask them if they bought the product first. If they're selling you insurance, ask them, is your mom on that insurance? Is that their healthcare product that your family is on currently? Because if they're not on it, why are they selling it to you? Also, please don't listen to someone who hasn't made $1 million already, both in turnover and GP, and they're telling you how to make $1 million. Now, I'm saying this gracefully to you, because some people have golden nuggets. For example, our teachers have been some of the most influential people in shaping the trajectories of our lives. They never made millions, right? But the value they bring is incredible. But they were called to be that. But if you're talking about business case studies and you want to talk to people who make it, and then here's the thing, right? Talk about numbers. What's the golden number in your mind when you talk about being successful? How many zeros? Call it out. Shout it out. How many zeros? What's the standard everyone talks about? Loud. How many figures? Yes. What is it? Call it loud. There's no wrong number. Call it loud, everyone. Now watch this. The everyday person says 1 million. Because that is the status quo, that is the normality, that is the normative of how we grew up. I want to be a millionaire. Right? They even sing that song, the fella. But now that one fella is singing about billionaire. You see, the ceiling is capped by you. So how you grew up is how you're going to think about it. So this is the environment. Then you understand the next word, centimillionaire. Oh wow, there's more zeros involved in this. Now it became 8. And then you get into a playing pool where you realize it's about 9 zeros. Right? Okay, of course there's more. Right? But then you play in that field. So you must qualify and quantify dynamics and ratios and targets and deliverables based on how you see it. Because there's realistic targets, but there's also targets that you have to get. When you set budgets as well, when you're setting things, let me tell you something. If you wake up in the morning and you're aimless, I've got a problem. I can tell you what I'm going to be doing on this day, on that day in the morning. You write down notes. At the end of the day, you go down, you write down, and you say, what did I do? Don't get caught up with answering emails all the time, because that's what foolish people do. It's disruptive. It's not good. Yes, whilst I know that if you case study corporates and why they go into business rescue and closing, a lot of it boils down to bad communication. Because people nowadays also don't know when to send an email, when to stand up and walk to the person next door to you and shake them up and talk about a business deal, and when to send a formal letter versus when to physically go to the customer. Because there's nothing better, as good as AI is, Elton, as good as technology is, there is nothing better than physical presence. Being in front of a customer. Make every effort to be in front of your customer. The CDMP, the customer decision-making process, is very different for each customer. And the best way to do it is the intuition to read the customer physically. You get it? Read the customer physically. Read the market physically to understand better. Because let me tell you something, transactional, before you buy the product physically, you would have already bought the product here. You should know more about the product than the person who's selling it to you. True? Right. We talk about things like this here as well, and time is against me. Sell me this pen. You've heard this, right? You've heard people always do this in sales. Sell me this pen. Who wants to sell me this pen? Come on. Let's get a volunteer. Quickly, there's no wrong answer. I won't call Pastor Chris. Yes, sir. Wow. Thank you. There you go.
You motivated me.
Yes.
And I need your signature.
Very smart. Very smart. That's thinking out of the box. Give him a round of applause. But one of the things people do, and I'll talk about asking the right questions at the right time. One of the things people do when you go and sell me this pen, they often tell you that this is an amazing pen. It has German precision technology. It has Japanese Six Sigma quality. It has American standardization and endorsements by LinkedIn, and it has a Chinese price. And here's why you need to buy this pen. Right? All those things are amazing. All those things are beautiful. The golden question is, if you asked me to sell you this pen, what I would ask you is, do you need this pen? Because the need creates the want. Otherwise, you are selling to a target market that does not need it. It's like scattering seed, the sower. Sometimes you're sowing on the wrong ground and you're kicking yourself. Why am I saying? You're selling to the wrong people, wrong target market. Find the right target market. Stop being cliched. There is nothing worse. Now, again, I say this. You know, we use the cliche of a used car salesman. Be careful about being a used car salesman where you're just selling it out. It's like going to a restaurant and asking the waiter what's good on the menu, and they tell you everything on the menu. They're reading everything out to you. That's the person you're like, okay, this is not good for you. So be strategic to your business. I always say it's strategy. There's nothing worse than asking someone to scratch your back, and they're scratching in the wrong place. It's like, no, it's there. No, it's there. Yeah. So in business, you must scratch where it itches. Because when you get it there, your hit rate, your percentage rate of hitting the target of deliverables is extremely high. Did you get that? I'm glad you got that. I want to do something also very quickly with you. I have a number in my mind from 1 to 1,000. I have a number in my mind from number 1 to 1,000. Okay? You get it? Everyone got it? Because you do this quickly now. Okay? You have 3 questions to ask me, but you have to guess that answer when you're done with it. Just 3. Who wants to try? Quickly. And if you do it, Pastor Chris is going to give you something, not me. Let's get you. Let's get someone. Yes, go, sir. How many digits is the number? And I'm going to get to you. How many digits in the number? It's 3. Next question, because I started with you.
Start with an even number or odd number?
It's an even number. Last question.
If we add all 3 numbers, what will the total be?
If I add all 3 numbers, I'm not adding all 3 numbers because it's just one number in my mind. But I say, boo, oh, what's that one? Ding. When it's gone, your 3 questions are done. Yes, sir. My number is 100. Shake my hand. Give him a round of applause. The wisdom to that is, there's nothing wrong with what you asked. Because when you are in business and you're in strategy as well, sometimes you call set-up questions. You ask 5 questions, you tag team with someone in the sales room with you. You're really luring the person, you're catching them at the low, but the right question is called the set-up question. Sometimes in forums, you must be direct and ask the question, what is the number? Because at no time did I say to you, you can't ask me a direct question. Stop beating around the bush in business. Stop long 200 pages of emails and things like that. Time is precious. We are suffering from information fatigue. We're living in a world of technology. Information fatigue is crazy. Get on the phone and just say, I need to speak with you. You're the CEO of the company. Understand who the decision makers are. In business, it's very important with which decision maker. You get the user, the payer, and the buyer. The user is in production, doesn't really care about the price. He cares about the application, how to use it, making sure productivity, it's easy to use, it's generic, it functions, follows compliance, warranty, etc. The payer is the financing guy. He wants to know things like, how much are we paying for it? What are the payment terms? Are we getting this for extended payment terms, price positioning, is it market related, etc. The user, the payer, and the buyer. Well, that's the buyer. The buyer is about the 4 Ps, getting it all delivered at the price, all these things, and they want it to get right. So there's nothing worse than going to a technical person and discussing price with them. He looks at you, although the market's changing, because we're in a very price-sensitive market, right? He cares about technical information. He wants to know about the technology about it. What are you selling? Give me the credentials of it. Is it software compliant? What is it going to do? Is it end of life? What's the roadmap towards the product as well? But going to a buyer and telling them about the technical specification about the product when they don't care about it. You see what I'm saying? So in business, sometimes you must look at your business, evaluate it, write your case study down, right? My time is up, and we're going to get into some questions. You've got to ask the right things, okay? Let's go to the cocktails of peptides. On the slide. I'm going to try and send you the slides if you request it, but these are some of the things that I like to write, and these are keywords that you can go and look at and study so that you understand them better. And I've got some lovely case studies of people who made some very profound words. So one of the things that I tell people as well in business, and if you've got questions, you can get your questions going up as well, is that in business, it's very, very important to believe in yourself and to have a mentality of you must become a person of habit. So if you ask me some of the successes that I did, I was never afraid to push beyond. And first capture your local market in the geography that you are. For example, if you're based in Johannesburg, first try and capture this market before you want to be a fundi in Durban. Okay? First capture that. And before, Alton spoke about how the globe and how you've got to look at the market outside of South Africa is first Africa. You look at the TAM, total available market. You look at DTAM stats, and then you realized how small South Africa is in the greater scope of the total economy of this world. We're very small. We single digit. In fact, if you look at our whole GDP, we fall under, 2-3% of the total GDP? I'm not sure of the stats, but we're very small. But then you've got to look at how do you become a role player outside of your business sector. And so going back to my story as well, is that it was nothing short of grace. And then I started, even when I got an office, I remember how difficult it was. And then when you look at AIP, this is an investment company, a property company that I started. And the whole reason of how that company started about is that a landlord kicked me out from the office that I was in many years ago. I was paying rent to them. And then I said to the Lord, I want to stop renting. I want to start owning. And then it came about as well that we bought a company, and the wisdom was to buy a separate company and register it under a property company and then rent ICOP rents from AIP. So I can't go into the breakdowns of how you make that work and how you understand that. But you've got to go and study all of that. I always say in business, have a good pastor, have a good doctor, have a good lawyer, right? And a good accountant, right? Make sure. Very important, okay? Render to Caesar what belongs to Caesar. I was talking to someone about value add, and in business, you always talk about selling value add, because when the customer is buying, they only care about the price, and you say to them, but think about the value add. And I'll tell you why value add has become such a taboo word in our industries, because of SARS. Because when you're seeing value add, all you think about tax, value added tax. Right? So we just forgot about the tax part of it. But listen, compliance is very, very important. You've got to have, social responsibility and everything that you do. One of the things I want to say to you is that in the arena of making money, there's nothing wrong with making money. There's nothing wrong in wealth creation. But make sure that you're a good steward of it. Be as humble. I remember the Bible says in the book of Proverbs, for humility comes before honor. Be humble. Have the ability to talk to everyone. If I want to be remembered by someone, I don't want to be remembered as people saying he owns that, or do you know who this guy is? He drives that, or blah blah blah. That would make me sad. I want to be remembered as a normal guy that knew how to run with grace, and is able to talk to people no matter what level you are. Don't ever talk down to a person. Talk to a person. Sometimes you get it wrong in business because you're talking down to people. Talk to people. Be conversational. Your story is a real life story. Let me tell you something. Even at my level, where I am, 18 years of business, where we're pressing on in business with great leaps and bounds, even though it's challenging. We will still have challenges where we're talking to creditors and we want to push payment terms out. China likes TT. You know what TT is, right? Payments in advance, telegraphic transfer payments as well. They're becoming harder. A lot of countries that do you know that China does not deal with credit? They don't credit deal. So banks are not good in China. They're poor. So you must be able to manage your business where you submit your business to the Lord. And there's a lot of biblical compliance, which I'm not speaking about, but you need to apply in your life, and you've got to understand it and read it. Pastor Thamo, a couple of weeks ago, spoke about, in the series of biblical economics, spoke about the word makarios. And if you have a chance to go and study the word in the Greek, it means blessed, fortunate, happy. And here's what makarios means. Makarios, it never rewards merit. In other words, your good works or all the hard work that you've done. It announces grace. Makarios. It never rewards merit. It announces grace. In other words, anything that you do starts from grace first, then leads to merit. Sometimes how you're running your business, you're running it on merit, not on grace. Apply the standards of God where your business can be tested. And let me tell you something, when it comes to giving, be generous at what you do. Whether it's, this is how we started the foundation as well, because you must be good stewards of business, and we're not doing this because of a social responsibility, the corporate governance, and all these things, BEE rating and compliance and all these things that you have to comply with. These are not the reasons why you do it. You do it because you realize God's called you for a bigger purpose. And if you understand that, and when you're praying, you say, Lord, bless me as a steward so that I can be a distributor of wealth into areas and avenues that you have asked me to sow into, so that I can be a kingdom financer, right? And I'm being serious about it, because let me tell you something. Can I be honest with you? Maybe sometimes you're not a millionaire because God doesn't trust you to be a millionaire yet. Maybe He does, but you don't know how to manage it. They say, my father used to tell me, don't ask God for your license, or don't ask God for a car if you don't have your license. One further, don't pray for the car if you can't believe God that you're going to get the car mat. You've got to increase your whole worldview, your whole thinking. You've got to think beyond. And a lot of people have a sheep mentality. What they say what they do what they say. They don't think out of. And I am now challenging you to go back and obliterate, almost be disruptive toward the status quo of normality. The idiosyncrasies of how you see business must come to a new level. You've got to think it bigger. Entrepreneurs are aggressive. They think quickly. They think fast. They want to do deliverables. We're busy with finalizing our new home, and it's been an incredible journey. And then I've seen how people that are in their field set or in their set industry set, how their mind is so boxed to what they see. So if you tell them, no, but you can do this in 3 weeks, they'll tell you, no, but it takes 6, 8 months, and these are the reasons why you've got to do this, and by the time you submit, all they see is failure. They can't see past it. And then with grace, you can run quickly. You can run quickly. When I look at the company and what we did, it has been nothing short of grace. I mean, there's so many other stories that I'd like to tell you. I want to play a clip for you. I want you to watch this clip as well. It's by a lady, and she's irrelevant. Well, she's relevant in the context of a description and a discussion as well. She was a judge on Amira. She was a judge on Shark Tank in Dubai in 2024 season, 2025. I just want you to watch this video clip for about 4.5 minutes, but there's buzzwords that you must write down and take with you, and you can apply to your everyday life. Will you do that? Will you do that, guys? Can we just play the clip quickly?
Excuse me, ma'am. Question for you. Is this your Rolls Royce?
Yeah.
And how did you get a Rolls Royce? How did you get rich?
You see this hotel?
Yeah.
I own it.
You own this hotel?
Yeah, we're the largest private property developers in the region.
You own hotels?
We own hotels, communities, buildings.
I'm going all over Dubai, interviewing the richest people to help the younger generation. Could I get a minute with you for the channel real quick?
Real quick.
For 1 minute.
1 minute. I have a meeting after, but let's do it.
Okay. How long have you been in the real estate business?
We've been in the real estate business 22 years.
What was the most amount of money that you made in a single year?
Last year, we sold more than $10 billion of real estate.
You said 10 million?
10 billion. More than $10 billion.
$10 billion.
Yeah.
What city are we in today?
We're in Dubai.
Yeah.
We're in Dubai.
Is this the best city to do business?
This is the best city to do business, to be, to live. This is the best city in the world.
Why?
You know, honestly, the energy that this region has right now, that this city, this country has, the talent that's coming in, and the opportunities, they outweigh everything.
Now, what keeps you motivated to keep on growing? Because you've had a ton of success already, but you're still building businesses, you're still building companies. Why is that?
Legacy. We want to create, something that leaves a legacy, and more than anything, we want to contribute to our country's skyline, to our country's development, and we want to be able to say that we contributed to what makes this city great.
Business is tough. Do you think everybody's built for entrepreneurship?
No, I don't think everybody's built for entrepreneurship.
Why?
It requires a special spark, a special determination, and an ability to persist beyond all odds. And I think every entrepreneur faces a time in their journey where they think, am I going to make it? Is this all going to be worth it? And just persisting through that and knowing and believing that what you're doing is going to make a difference, it matters, and you're going to make it. I think that's the toughest thing entrepreneurs face today.
As a woman in business, have you had people that doubted you?
All the time.
But you don't listen to them?
I don't listen to them because I have a father who believes in me, a husband who's supportive, and brothers that are amazing, and so I don't need to believe them.
Why do so many businesses fail in today's world? Why do you see so many people go out of business?
So it's a funny question because I'm actually a judge on Shark Tank Dubai.
Are you actually?
I am a judge on Shark Tank Dubai, and the people always ask me, what do you look for in business that you invest in? It's 3 simple things. Number 1 is the founder. Nothing can overcome a founder being a winner or loser, and so you really have to have that founder mentality, that founder belief. And number 2 is what's the product you're actually, are you solving a problem? Are you filling a requirement? And number 3 is there a market that is monetizable for this product? I think if you have those 3 ticked off, you are going to succeed no matter what. 2 out of 3, maybe you'll be successful. Having only 1 out of 3, you're not going to make it.
That's game right there.
That is.
I'm going to challenge you right now. Take me back to the most life-changing conversation that you ever had. What's the greatest piece of advice that you ever received throughout your career?
Wow, that's a tough one. The greatest piece of advice. It would be advice my father gave me to not let the noise around you distract you. Doesn't matter what others are doing. Doesn't matter what others are saying. If you believe in what you're doing, you keep going, you're going to make it.
You got to focus.
You got to focus, and honestly, you got to rely on God, because it takes a ton of hard work, a little bit of luck, but it takes a lot of love from somebody upstairs for you to make it.
So you do believe in God?
I'm a big believer in God. I'm very religious. I do think
Go ahead.
that everything happens, everything is destiny, everything happens for a reason, but you got to give it your best.
And if you lost everything tomorrow, could you make it all back?
For sure.
What would you do?
I would start again. I would, go into a service business where you could generate cash flows based on service. You don't need massive capital. Use those cash flows to reinvest into things that require capital, whether it's development and buying a land, or technology where you have a great idea and you go raise capital and you execute. And so today, in the age of AI, in the age of tech, in the age of VC's existence, I don't think you need massive amount to start. You just need a good idea. You need grit. You need to work hard. You can use AI to build a business plan, build a prototype, build an app, and then you can raise funding and go for it.
How old are you now?
I'm 31 and I have 2 kids.
31 years old?
Yeah.
How do you balance being a mom, but then also running $1 billion company?
That's a great question. A lot of people ask me that question. I think it's about priority. You will not be a 10 out of 10 on every front. It's what matters in the day. What is a priority today? Is my kid sick today, or do I have a board meeting today? And you just have to juggle it. You do your best and you bring your kids in. I think a very important thing is, my kids, they come to the office, they see how hard we work. They're introduced to that environment. And so when you're busy, they know my mom's busy for a reason. It's not just she's not here because she's choosing not to be.
31 years old now. If me and you died tomorrow and you had one more message to leave with the younger generation, what would that be?
Take advantage of your life. Don't let your life pass you by. Do as much as you can, achieve as much as you can, live it to the fullest, and enjoy the journey. It's not about the destination. Enjoy the journey to the fullest. You work hard, you do your best, and you leave the rest on God.
I love that. You got amazing advice.
There's so many buzzwords that's come out of that as well that you can take with you as well and use the buzzwords and you know you need to learn how to exegete like your Bible. If you know with your theology in your Bible, if you don't study it, it's just a storybook. So business is the same application. You take phrase words like the word focus. Focus is one of my biggest words in business, by the way. It's the F word. I love it. I use it all the time. Look at the words. She says founder, how to enjoy the spaces, and she's not arrogant. When it was asked to her, if you lost everything, could you do it again? That's confidence because of the passion. So it must give you goosebumps when you sit in business forums and you're talking about what you want to do. It must, listen, if your vision, and let's get the mics around because we're going to start asking some questions. If your vision does not keep you up at night and makes you afraid, find another one. It's too average. It needs to push you. Needs to push you to a point where you are waking up at night. Entrepreneurs generally don't sleep too well. Their minds are terribly active. They're thinking things through. Mauni always knocks the shower in the morning. It's like, hey, stop dreaming. I use an electronic toothbrush and my mind is gone already. That's why I'm sending messages so quickly. And good entrepreneurs are they intuitive. They can be able to foresee something. Have you noticed sometimes people that manage you, as an example, you almost think they're reading your email because they can ask you something that you've forgotten and they can almost see it happen and like, why didn't you do that? But I asked to do that as well. And you wonder, how does this person remember everything? Data analytics is that entrepreneurs can read numbers, binary numbers, and they can quickly find the detail, the attention to detail. And as you program and train yourself, right, you will become meticulous in finding the opportunity. And that's what serial entrepreneurs can do. They can go into an environment, they can do a case study on a place, they can do a due diligence on it, and they can come back and tell you quickly, this is going to work, that's not going to work. Any questions? We can take some questions quickly. Yes, sir.
Yes. So I wanted to ask, you mentioned something about your sales guys. I wanted to kind of ask, what's your sales process now? And maybe how was it when you started out as like a startup? And what your sales process looked like practically on the ground? Like, what are your sales guys doing? And what's your sales process? Obviously, there's the marketing.
Yeah.
Then there's the sales.
Yeah.
So obviously, I think in my view, the most important thing to get cash flow into a business to actually build what you want.
Right.
So I wanted to understand maybe if you have the same overview of sales as everybody else, or you have your own way of conducting.
Okay, that's a very weighted question. In fact, what's good about you is that you ask 10 questions in one question. I like that. That's called maximizing the moment. Oprah Winfrey once said, and I'm not a big fan of Oprah as well, but she said, luck is a matter of opportunity meeting preparation. Luck is a matter of opportunity meeting preparation. I don't believe in luck, firstly. I believe in grace. Because luck, you just fluked it. I believe in grace means you worked for it. And that's makarios. Not merit, but grace. Just, if I understood your question, but let me tell you something. If you're asking questions on salespeople, let me say this. The best salesperson is first the CEO of the company. He can sell better than anyone can. And if he's not good in selling, I've got a serious problem with that. I have a problem when accounting people can't sell. I believe that everyone in your business, including the person who answers your telephone, should be in sales. Number one, right? There's a phrase and a quote that I have about sardines. Can you put that on the board quickly? Because I want to show you something. Sales 101. Sales 101. Find it quickly. There you go. First one. A catch in a sardine run does not make you a fisherman, which means in a sardine run, anyone can catch a fish. A good salesman and by the way, I'm of the opinion that entrepreneurs are not made, they are born. Great entrepreneurs, natural entrepreneurs. Good entrepreneurs are cloned. And there's nothing wrong with being cloned. It's who you study and the application of what you study that you can become. Like, for example, we are in the image of God, so we're sons of God. So we're not just clones, we image. But you can become a good salesperson if you're following the right people in sales. Number three, when the tava is hot, always make roti. I'll explain this to you. It's one of my in-betweens. So culturally, let me explain to you. Roti is Indian bread, and in order to make roti, it's something that you put on the pan. It's like a pan, but you put your bread, the flour on there, and then it gets hot. Now, this is what I'm saying. You can only make roti if your tava is hot. In sales, good salespeople know when to strike. They know when to hit the market. They know which wave to run. They know when to get to the customer. They know exactly how to do it. Be careful in business, in sales as well, just to talk to you about sales, because I've often heard some customers retaliate on an email and they say, stop harassing me. You can't keep pushing. Don't push too hard in sales. Sometimes you've got to know when to just plant that seed and walk away and a couple of days later get. Also, don't be the opposite where you do a sales lead or sales generation. You've got to understand the process in sales. There's so many processes in sales before you get your order. So whilst you must be order-driven, because remember something, I always tell people, you can do 1 million quotes. If you get no orders, it's pointless, right? And a lot of people are too caught up with quotes rather than orders. That's why turnover is vanity, gross profit is sanity, operating capital is reality. Because at the end of the day, show me your GP. Focus on EBITDA. Everyone knows what's EBITDA, right? It's earnings, check me now. Earnings before interest, tax, depreciations and amortization. So sometimes you've got to understand the true worth of your business capital. Don't be afraid to look at reports. Good salespeople. We have a customer module that we use, a CRM, that's called Salesforce. And in the sales matrix, we can look at sales guys and see like a heat patch. Look at the credibility. What's your hits at your customer, your hit rate? How many visits have you had as well? The one thing that I'm going to give you advice on in sales, I'm a firm believer. There is nothing better. We say this here. This sitting in your office does not give you revenue. This, sitting in front of a customer, gives you revenue. You must position yourself to be in front of customers. Always do that, because I see what's happening right now. COVID has helped us, but it's also made us become super reclusive. Now we don't know when to be in front of the customer. So don't forget that, okay? Just putting it on sales. But sales is your engine room to get into business. I would invest more in sales, right? You see the word how, who said this? He said, what's the British guy, Virgin? The Virgin guy. Oh, I'm just checking if you know your stuff. He said it. He said, if you take care of your staff, they will take care of your customers. And business has migrated as well. That's why from human resources, we call it human capital. It's such a fundamental thing how important humans are. Salespeople are. They're the engine room. They are your GP. I tell people this here. If I look at ICOP and I look at what we do and our product positioning in the market, you know what differentiates me from our competitors is my people. We're all selling the same product. Your differentiator is you. So place great emphasis on you. I was saying to my wife the other night, there's nothing worse than having all this vision and this energy and your business idea inside of you, but you don't know how to articulate that to a customer. If you can't take it out and express it in a better form, or find someone who's good. For example, if you are the CEO of the company and you know you're not good in speaking, or you don't have a camera face, please don't be in front of the camera. You get what I'm saying? Apply the right person to do that. Good entrepreneurs know that their idea is not the best idea. But good entrepreneurs know how to take the best out of you and delegate it through and get it done. That's good entrepreneurs. So don't be afraid to delegate. In fact, entrepreneurship is a great art of delegation. Question 2. When we talk about business trends, how do we say, as sons, right? As kingdom sons. That basically, it means kingdom compliance when you are a son of God. And we are, right? How do you stay sharp, effective, and on the cutting edge? I think the first thing as well is firstly, as sons of God, you understand that you have business intuition with prophetic grace. You have an ability to do more because God has blessed you. Remember, we have a competitive edge. But the wisdom is to know how to use your competitive edge in the business place. Because if you don't know how to do it, and that's why the unfair advantage is that we can call upon God. And there's the ability to use the Holy Spirit and say, people talk about how to read the room. This is what grace does. It allows you to read the room correctly without using the fundamentals of the natural environment. Right? For example, whenever I walk into a the room, the receptionist is one of the best people to get a story from. And when you're looking at the login book, always look at where your competitors, who signed in when. So you know how to tailor your conversation. I don't talk about competitors in a meeting because I get to brand ICOP, not my competitors. So think about all these things I'm saying. Talk about the competitive edge and how to position yourself. You've got to understand your heavenly compliance, because when you learn how to shadow heaven, you will shine on the earth. So when you use all of these factors, you must know your product and your market, because there's nothing more foolish than trying to quote Bible scriptures in a business meeting when you're trying to sell a product. Understand the dynamics of that. So if you don't know your product, you're a fool. I'm sorry for saying that. Forgive me. There's nothing worse. When I go into a business meeting and I sit with my sales guy, if he doesn't know his product, and there's nothing worse than just going away like you're selling stuff, because people, they become AI now. They learn something and they just spill it out, yet the customer never even asks. Because the first question I would ask if I'm in a meeting and I have to sell, Sean, I would first ask them, what do you want me to sell you today? What do you need today as well? Never ask the person in a forum or in a business meeting, what does your company do? Is there something wrong with you? Use the internet and find out everything, what they do, what they learn. So when you're going there, you are cross-selling correctly, you are meeting a need, you are being correct in what you're offering them. So you go with solution selling rather than stupid questions to the person. So Sean, I may not have captured it fully for you, but the important thing that I can say to you is that you must be knowledgeable about what the environment that you're going to, and each customer is different, their segment is different, their needs are different. So the more information, when I'm driving to a customer, I would ask my sales guy, give me all the info about the customer, tell me who's who, know the role players, know the CEO, know the financial director, know the tech, the engineers, know exactly what their product is doing in the market, know what their competitors are doing. And when you are tailoring your sales pitch, you tailor it to not general or generic, you tailor it to specific solution selling. What's your question, sir? How do you deal with rejection? You're talking about when you're dating someone or in business? I'm joking. In the boardroom. Okay, that's a vast, it's a big question now. When you're saying rejection, you're meaning rejection as in as an employee to a subordinate or a customer sales relation. Which context?
On the way to the client with your sales.
Yeah. Oh, that's a normal thing. Firstly, let me say this as well. There are some meetings you'll go to. They are phenomenal meetings. And there are some meetings where you can sense the room, and in that room, rejection. Sorry, we don't like dealing with you. Sorry, your product pricing is too high. They'll give you a whole lot of things that every time you try, they trigger you down. So that's a normal thing in business, by the way. Okay? I heard someone once say, and I'm going to put this in the context when you're saying, they say, if you keep knocking the door and it doesn't open, continue knocking. At least you've been heard in the hallway. So when you deal with rejection, keep hitting at it hard. Rejection is beautiful. It's beautiful. I'll tell you why. It's tailoring you up for success in another way. It's galvanizing you, okay? Because every time you fail, right, rather than try and fail, then fail to try, it's setting you up for something good. So when you're dealing with it, you must also do a truth in retrospect. Like sometimes when I'm talking to my sales guy, and I'll give you an example, and we lost a business deal, and we feel rejected. Why did we lose that deal? And then the truth pill must also come out. Sometimes you must be an honorable loser, worthy loser. You must walk and say, we lost because our product didn't meet the criteria that were set. We lost because we were late in our submission. We lost because the mannerism in how you approached it, you were too late on the engineering lead, so they didn't feel we were good enough to capture it. They didn't feel confident enough. Don't be a fool. And while she says, don't listen to the noise, the video clip, don't listen to the noise. Don't listen to the noise in a sense that listen, but don't let it dictate to you negatively. So rejection, listen to it, but don't let it negatively put you back where you leave that meeting feeling like, I want to give up. Don't give up. You get it? Don't give up. Keep at it, okay? Rejection, I always say delay is not denial. Sometimes you're pushing for an order, or you're pushing at that customer, you keep knocking it out. Keep knocking that door, okay? Because let me tell you something, I've had more people close their doors to me than open their doors to me. Okay? So if you want to be in the arena where you're playing with the big boys, they say if you can't ride with the big boys, stick in the porch. So if you want to be in the arena where you're making millions and you're calling 9 figures as well, remember, there are going to be deals, massive deals that you will lose. They will never want to deal with you, but you've got to know how to build yourself up, because you're going to have lots of sleepless nights. You got to have lots of times where you're asking yourself, what did I do? Why did I even do this? But encourage yourself in the Lord like David did. Go and study some of the teachings that we do. One of my messages as well was David, a life replete with thanksgiving. He knew how to encourage himself in the Lord, even when he was in his worst place. So the cave of Adullam is a normal environment sometimes that you've got to be in, but you've got to know how to use it, like Joseph in the pit, that it's setting you up, when it's setting you up for perfection or for what God wants you to be.
So the question from Dumi was that for Elton, has there been any governance done regarding AI, regarding IP ownership? So when we put data into these agents to get output, who owns the data / the output also? So what I did, how you think I answered the question? So I put the question into AI. And I saw what answer it's going to give me. So two elements behind it. The first, when you're using the OpenAI system, it's exactly that. AI is meant to democratize information and therefore available publicly. So can AI own IP? The current consensus is no. Can AI be an inventor? No. Can AI-generated content be copyrighted? And there's a little bit of a gray line at the moment that says that it can only be done so if there's significant human contribution to it. However, there are closed systems that are utilized, like one of the systems right now that Gate Global is using from an AI perspective is a closed system, like you would have with many of your corporates utilizing Copilot. So it'll be closed, and the information that's contained within that network is training the data, but closed within that organization. It'll be utilized in that way. I think that's the quickest and simplest way to answer it, but AI gave me most of that answers.
Okay, good. Alton, you got another question?
There's few from Dima. I'll try and consolidate it.
Okay.
The one is the database of businesses in GMS. Can that be consulted as and when there's a business requirement that happens? And then associated to that question, is there an opportunity for in-house exhibition so the business leaders can showcase their businesses, either on a website or something similar or word of mouth?
Okay, good. Let me say this. Thank you for that question. One of the things we want to do in this press and in this forum is to try and see how we can engage as business leaders, where it's not only us talking, but how we engage and share ideas. Upstairs was a great way of how to network. Only one person gave me their card. Only one person. Where's Uncle Patrick? Patrick, where are you? Stand up. Give that man a round of applause. So maybe, thank you, Patrick. Maybe you didn't give me your card, but the mere fact that you're able to do that, it shows the one-on-one of business. Papillion Security Systems, and there's Patrick's number. I'm not going to give it to you because his Instagram followers will increase, but there's a one-on-one ways of how you can network and forum. So sometimes you don't need a business directory or something formal to engage with people. Make the first step. What we are going to do at GMS, because that's where we have this forum as well that was given to us by Pastor Thamo. Outside of this forum, we will promise you that we will open a WhatsApp group if you choose to, so we won't solicit you. And then in that forum, we will engage how we can talk more on business and share ideas. I mean, one of the networks is, for example, when you talk to a person and you realize, for example, Keegan, right? Talking to Keegan, and Keegan's been in our church for so long, I now realize that Keegan is involved in real estate, and I'm involved in real estate, and I've been looking for people to network with on real estate, and just this forum has allowed me to connect with Keegan, and I'm going to support Keegan. Why? Because he's a son, because we share the same father. Because there's business, there's a synergy between us. And that's what the Jews and the Muslims are good at doing. And we must use these forums to support each other. But in the compliance of supporting each other, there must be T's and C's, because sometimes some Christians have the worst integrity. The worst integrity. Okay? We are a bad example in the marketplace. And then we talk about Jesus and propagate how good God is as well. Okay? Salvation is free. Everything else you must pay for. Okay, so those are one of the things we're going to do, and hopefully we can get it right. And then we will look at exhibitions and all these forums, how we can do better, so that people can showcase their skills and their expertise, so that we can share, we can cross-pollinate as well. Because in this room, we are sitting with giants here that we can share and we can do better together.
Okay, so it answers one of the questions that was going to be asked around giving each other support towards growth, but the one that came further to it, which probably needs some clarity, is there a possibility of getting virtual incubation support systems for services that are offered in the house, whether it be accounting, etc.?
So, so again, those are good questions but I think this forum is to not to set up engine rooms of to trade. This forum is to harness and propel you in the forums and environments that you are to go out there and put. So we're sowing seed here. But what we can't do in these environments now is farm for you. You've got to be a good steward of how to farm, of how to go there, and where we can apply our sense together to direct you and guide you. We can do that. But remember, by profession, I'm not a life coach. I don't have. Remember, I told you I don't have patience. My wife even tells me I'm dyslexic. So, for example, if you just randomly call me and want to discuss business with me, the chances of me speaking to you is 2%. As an example. So we may need to create the right forums of how to harness these things in a more calculated derivatives that it can be channeled correctly and managed better.
Okay,
but Pastor Chris, last week or 2 weeks ago, we had a forum, Chris, where just tell us what was the name of that forum? Vocational support group. So maybe check out Gurram's throwing curveballs. Maybe delegation. Talk to Pastor Chris and our office. They have vocational support groups where, for example, if you are in the medical fraternity, they hook you up with people that are in the same field of expertise so that you can channel questions and create your own forum and hybrid tech discussions that are relevant to the field of expertise. And people in there are critical components to give you the right advice.
Okay, so there's some questions here about getting exactly that support and having somebody within the SMEs to establish business trust.
What, they want financial support? Or?
To safeguard investment.
No, I'm
and
just
financial
asking
legacy.
for a friend. Yes.
So,
why hasn't anybody asked that question yet? I'm just joking. I am just joking. Because listen, those are real questions I would be asking right now. How do you make money, man? Really, you're not answering that question. Right, go ahead. Good.
okay, if I have an asset and I need the capital to start breaking free without financials, how do I do it? And where they are right now is that the business partner and him are bootstrapping. Where they are, they need to be able to get to the next level with capital injection, which they require.
Capital injection. Oh, there you go. There you go. I said this at inception, and I said it based on my life experience and my case story. I will never get into business with anyone outside of God and my wife, unless the Holy Spirit and God gives me a leading. Anything more than one head is a monster. And whilst I'm not advocating, and listen to me carefully, that partnership is a wrong thing, because in some businesses, they form formidable partnerships. Sometimes you can be in partnership with someone who's not like-minded, who does not serve the same father, right? Who could be sectarian, but yet your synergies could be good. But for me personally for me, I'm not in favor of that. In my company, as an example, I have people that are employed that are not of the same faith as I. And when I'm interviewing them, I do not interview them from a prejudice point of view and say, you have to be this in order for me to remember. The codes of ethics with HR are difficult. But what I can do in my environment, for example, this Thursday, I was getting into a meeting, a very important meeting with the CEO of the company, and I had to deal with, sir, some very strong points about that possibly could be rejection in the meeting. And before I left, I asked my CTO and my logistics and quality manager to come into the meeting. We joined hands and we prayed. Because I asked God because I knew that we needed divine intervention. So in that forum of a closed door, I can invoke God. So I'm not afraid to do that. But getting to this question here about partnerships, because I heard the word partner. If you have to, do whatever you need to do as well. Make sure you use the law. A Chinese proverb, the law was created to protect the wise and bind the foolish. So use the liturgy of the law to transact. Only a fool does not advocate the law. Whenever we do legal documents, compliance documents, tenders, whatever, please use the legal people to deal with it. It's not your expertise, don't be a big shot. Let the legal guys deal with it. Read the fine prints as well. So when you're doing with business, let legal get involved to make sure that you are governance, that you are presented. Now, legal will do everything within their jurisdiction to go over the top. In fact, where they give you documents, no one will sign it. Right. So because when they give you the supply agreement from the customer, by the time they stuck it out, NA, review, you'll never ever do any business. So you must have good business sense to understand how to do it. So with your partner, have a discussion with them. If you feel you can buy out as well. Buy out your shares, get legal to write it, but be ethical as well. And then when it comes to capital and capital funding and injections, well, it's going to be really, really difficult because it depends on your financials and your fiscals, who you bank with as well. Because, companies look at, they may leverage against assets as well, or you look at getting an investor. When you get an investor into your business, remember something. It's like the story of Shakespeare and Shylock, a pound of flesh, a goodly apple rotten to the core. That's what I call investors, because when they take it, they're taking all of it. So whatever profit you think you're making zero. So you've got to be very, very careful with companies that buy into your company as well. It's very critical that you know that and read the fine clauses. It's like buying a house. Banks want you to buy a house. Let me talk about buying a house because it's basic generic 101. Most people, when they buy a house or buy a car, right, you know what HP is? What's a HP? Higher purchase, right? So the true cost of things must always be the reality of how you see life. Because I like when people tell me, I bought a car. How much you buy the car for? I bought it for 1 million rand. Fantastic, man. You did great. Okay, great. You bought it cash. No, the bank financed it. Wonderful. Okay, so how much did you really pay? No, 1 million. I'm like, no, you didn't pay 1 million. If the bank financed it, you actually paid 1.8 million. The true cost of it is 1.8 million. That's your total cost, and a lot of people don't see the cost. When you look at the bank, right, when the bank gives you a loan for a house, you thank Jesus and you do cartwheels because your bond just got approved. That's what the everyday person does. But here's what the right person does. You go to the bank and you say, I don't want your bond. I'm declining it. Why? You gave me a 20-year bond. I don't want a 20-year bond. I want a 5 or 10-year bond, because I'll tell you why. On an average 20-year bond, you'll spend your entire life. 20 years for most people is more than 40% of their lifetime. At a critical point in their life, all you would have done is not just paid for the house, you paid for 2 houses. Not 1, 2. But you thank the bank, and you are thanking the bank like Jesus answered your prayer. Go back and review everything on credit as well. Check it correctly, because what you can do is say, listen, no, I want a flexible, I want a loan that's going to allow me to pay back quicker, because when I pay back quicker, I'm going to be able to make more money. You see what I'm saying? So when you look at all these things about cash injections and stuff, so guys, regarding business capital as well, it's a very difficult thing, and all I can say to you is that find people that are in the same target market as you, that you can look at an investor as well, or pray extremely hard and relook at your product positioning of how you can do better. But it's a very complex question, and no, I can't give you a loan.
Last question that we'll take for today is, why doesn't Gate have a business fund?
Why doesn't Gate have a business fund? So if I understand correctly, the question is, they're asking, why doesn't Gate offer capital financing? So yeah, the church is not a lending institution. The church is not an FSP. The church is a family. And let me give you my advice. One of my things, or one of my rules, I never lend money. I realized that many years ago. It's bad business practice. It's bad principle as well. It's not good at all. So my advice to you, don't lend money, number one. If you feel out of sympathy you need to give the person some money, that's what I do. So if someone asks me for 1,000, and please don't ask me for money. If I feel a need to, I would give you 250, and I say, I'm giving it to you. If a person responds to you and says, thank you for blessing me, rebuke the person, say, I never blessed you. Because God didn't ask me to bless you. I just gave you as a donation. In other words, I gave you out of a feel need of empathy and sympathy. Don't mistake empathy and sympathy for being obedient to God and giving and sowing. Be very, very careful of that. So good business practice is also to make sure that you don't just loosely lend. The parable of the sower as well is sometimes people are sowing incorrectly as well. It's very, very important. That's why for me, I believe, I am of the opinion, and I was talking to my spiritual father, Pastor Thamu, the other day as well. In my study of theology, we realized the importance of making sure that the pastor, the lead pastor that you're hearing from, that gives you doctrine, that their theology is right, because their belief system becomes your belief system. So if they are in error and erroneously speaking a false doctrine, you believe it. So it's so important to be connected to the right spiritual father that helps you through this process.
Can we just take one last one? I think the one question was answered around the principles that we assimilate during the current series done by Pastor Thamu. You'd mentioned that.
Yes.
So we're not going to do that one.
Yeah.
But the one that has come afterwards is, what would business leadership look like if we truly governed our companies as stewards of God's kingdom rather than just participants in the economy?
Wow. Well, what a profound. And I think that question, and I want you to read it again, basically encapsulates why we have forums like this, is to really see how do we position ourselves correctly to divinely hear from God and be His best contributor, His best attributes, His best expression of Him on planet Earth in what we do. Because remember something, God has called us to have divine custody in the principles of how God has called us to eat the fat of the land. When you go and research the word fat, you must never live in lack. You must never be in want. You must live beautifully, but there's a compliance which becomes a problem. Many people, you know how to do well, faithful in little, but when it comes to much, it becomes a problem for us. I'll give you a classic example. It's easy to first fruit when you have to give 1,000 rand. Try giving 1,000,000 rand. Watch how your mind advocates principles as to why you shouldn't give. That's when the carnal flesh comes in, the carnal mind. I was at the the shop the other day, and the car guard was there, and then I opened my wallet and I saw I only got 100 rand notes, right? So, and by nature I'm a very generous person because I believe generosity is a byproduct of thanksgiving, and it's very closely linked to righteousness. And then my mind started to tell me, my carnal mind, about tell him, here's $100 for you, give me 80 rand change. So because now remember, I'm a business guy now, right? Because business, I transact. I'm also a very highly skilled negotiator. No, seriously. I am the wolf, not in Wall Street, in Sandton. Don't call me that now, right? And then I'm thinking, okay, because this guy, I know he's got a lot of change. He's got a lot of 5 rands and 2 rands with him. And Doc, I need that money to distribute more to the other shops I'm going. And then I heard so clearly, I got rebuked, and God told me, give him the whole 100. And when you give it to him dignified. In other words, don't put it out like this way. He must see you giving him 100. Because when you give the 2 rand, you close your hand tight and give it and you hit out. But when you are giving a 50, a rand, you want that guy to know that you have given him 50, and you open your door and you talk and you let him know. Like, take a picture, my guy, put it on Insta, right? And then I realized, and I gave him that money, and as I drove up, God began to talk to me and said, see how in the little everyday analysis and life, how God is taking you to places where you've got to learn how to transact. And then the trust comes in, the trust factor. Because let me tell you something, God can bless every one of you. When we look at these questions of compliance, of how we can, and you're going to read that question again, God can get us. We're called to be there. But how are you going to be there if your compliance is wrong? If you want to see the fruit, go to the root. They say the apple doesn't fall far from the tree unless it's on a hill. And the problem with us, we talk about Christ, we talk about being the representation, the sholish of God, the shalia. But the problem is that in the image of God, we tarnish the image. It's tarnished. It becomes erroneous. It becomes dichotomous in the sense that we want the blessings of God, but we're not willing to live by the principles of God. And that's why the inputs, I always say, if you want your output to change, you have to change the input. Because what you input is what you output. If you plant bananas, you're not going to reap grapes. So if you're not sowing biblical economics into your funnel, your life funnel, into your business funnel, you think you're going to get biblical economics. No, you won't get it. And that's where the problem starts. There has to be a compliance. And the best way to do it, you don't have to be a rocket scientist. You can talk to God. Talk to your pastors. Say, pastors, I want to ask you a question. Where are the areas of my life that you feel I could be doing better on, that I'm failing in? And let them guide you and direct your path. And be honest about it. You know, your best compass or your best advocate to tell you where you're going wrong or your blind spots is your spouse. Because you are the most vulnerable. You are naked, physically and spiritually, figuratively. You are naked in front of your spouse. They will tell you your blind spots. They'll tell you, you know what? You're saying this, but you're not doing it. You're preaching this, you're speaking this. Bradley, we're talking about this, but we're not giving. Daddy, you're saying first fruit. Daddy, do we give first fruits, Dad? Dad, are we giving 10% of our income? Dad, in your business, Dad, how do you advocate giving? How do you manage that? Those are things we need to look at.
So the question, as it's repeated, is what would business leadership look like if we were truly governed our companies as stewards of God's kingdom rather than just participants in the economy?
Good. We want to get,
The last suggestion we'll close on this here with the commentary is that why doesn't GMS have its own Shark Tank?
because there's too many sharks here. So, I just wanted to read something to you as well, because you need to go and look at these things. But there was something I wanted to say on my one note that I made. I was actually going to do a quote by, there you go. Dr. Segi once said, he said that righteousness is a capital investment. And to get back to that point, that righteousness is a capital investment. For me, your righteousness has so much to do with your right style of living, has so much to do with the capital in your life that you're building up. So when you start building, don't worry about physical capital. First build spiritual capital, because that there is the wellness and the source, right? God is the source of how capital will start to flow. So you have to get compliance right with God, because when you get it right with God, the flow, you open the flow, the source. God is the source, and that's the important thing to say. And I want to say something else as well before we get to that outstanding conclusion. There was something I once said as well. There's a story about it as well. In the race between the lion and the deer, a lion and a deer, many times the deer wins the race, because the lion runs for food, whilst the deer runs for its life. Purpose is more important than need. That is why you must fully understand your purpose. And it has to go back. Have you ever asked God, why were you created? Go back to the blueprint of your creation. Understand, God calls you to be the best in the field or the industry said that you could be. Let me say something to you. You're not a failure, but you've got to find what you're good at doing. There's nothing worse than knocking a square peg into a round hole. There's nothing worse than giving a person a fork that was supposed to be eating with at the table and telling them to shovel sand and then telling them they're taking too long to do the job. Maybe you are using the wrong utility to get the job done, but you're not you're good. So you've got to go back in retrospect of where you are, right? For example, if you told me to be a doctor, I'd be very bad. Based on my Phoenix nature, I can operate, but that does not qualify me to be a doctor. See, I'm not empathetic. I don't have much empathy. I'm not good at showing mercy. I don't have that in me to care. So be the best that God has called you to be. Because when you get that right, that is the starting point of following passion. Like, for example, a motor mechanic, when they start to, like a chef, for example, when you see some chefs talk, they say never trust a fat chef, but we can't say that anymore now, because there's some really good master chefs. When you see the chef talk about, but he describes his food with passion, he wants to study the ingredients and how is it made, and he goes into in-depth studies to tell you where this has come from, or like a wine sommelier was telling you where the grapes are from. You don't care, you just worry about why so much for the bottle of wine, as an example. But there's passion involved in what he's saying. There's romance in the transaction. When you start paying attention to the romance of the transaction in sales, in entrepreneurship, and what value are you adding? Listen to the lady from Shark Tank. She said, because we want to add value to the landscape of the Dubai. See how they're connecting the passion and the value into what they're doing because they enjoy. Someone once said, if you love doing what you do, you'll never work for a day in your life. Because you've got to love what you do. And here's the first component. If you wake up every day and you're grudgingly going to work, that's already a toxic environment for you. I tell people in my business that the day you lose your passion for this job, leave, because you're a cancer. You'll spread. You have to be honest with yourself where you are in business. Maybe some of you are not even cut off to be in business, and you must be honest about it. And go get a day job. Go get a day job, and God will call you to be the best that you could be there, and you'll probably make more money in your day job than you are making in business. You just got to be honest enough to find what you're doing, right? Is there anything that... Yes, sir. And we want to conclude... Oh, 2 questions. Okay, good. And we're going to close. Yes, sir.
You must have heard of a forum called BNI that focuses on networking, business networking, something that we're trying to do in this space.
Okay.
What separates them, and I would like to share what they do in that space, maybe it's something that we can implement here, is that there are chapters.
Yes.
In those chapters, there's a congregation of people.
Yes.
And every day, someone comes onto the podium and the rest of the people must generate leads and prospects for that business.
Okay.
Is it something that we cannot do it in the gate ministry space?
So, okay, good question as well. And it leads me to one of the things that I've just said, that we all are buzzing with opportunities and we all got market leads and we all looking for the next prospect, lead generation, right? In order, because leads create quotes, quote creates orders, orders creates revenue, revenue creates profit, profit creates sustainability of business. I get it. But these forums that we are right now, it's in incipient phase. What we're just trying to do is advocate a biblical compliance to see how sons can take that in your own space, in your own vehicle, and apply it there. Not necessarily looking to create this forum because we're still very young in it and where we are. So my encouragement to you is what I would do is I'll share my number with you, is share what you do in those forums so that I can look at it and see whether it's palatable for us.
The reason why I'm saying this, because as you can hear, there's a lot of requests for funding and capital, which I don't think is right.
Yes.
We rather support each other.
Yes.
And be advocates of each other's
Correct.
practices and
Correct.
businesses.
Correct.
And
Correct.
there's no better marketing than word of mouth.
Absolutely. And let me say this. I always said, I'll give you the differentiation. Thank you, sir, for that. And we're going to go to the next question because we also want to close as well. Let me say this. The difference between, my opinion, the difference between marketing and branding. Marketing is when you tell someone about your company, and branding is when someone tells someone else about your company. You get it? Good. Right. Next question.
I think this gentleman just covered me now with what he said with regards to funding and,
Yes.
Advocating each other's businesses. I've been following the biblical economics on YouTube for the last 14 sessions.
Wow.
And, that's why I'm here today, because I still believe that, what Apostle Tamo is saying should be applied in our businesses.
Absolutely.
And it's not just certain principles that should be applied,
Good.
but all biblical principles.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
So when it comes to the financial side, I met a lady today that needs an investor. She needs money, but she doesn't know how to access it.
Sure.
And I think this platform should create, opportunities like that.
Mm-hmm.
Because I'm also part of the business forum there in Boksburg. And I'm an executive on that group. So we always propagate not to give people money or to invest in other businesses, because we don't want animosity
Yes.
amongst the people.
Yes.
However, when it comes to Christians, I think we must take a different approach with regards to that, because again, heavenly principles are there for a reason, and it's like Apostle Tamo says, there's a blueprint in heaven. So we must look at the blueprint, and I would like to ask you guys as leaders, to get that blueprint for us and bring it down and share it with us so that we understand these things better and make our business successful.
Thank you. Thank you for that, sir. And I'm glad that you're listening to the 14 sessions by Pastor Tamo. Let me say the following as well. If you study the biblical economics and you look at the applications of it, there's a deliberate stance away from business the business economics. Biblical economics is a move away from ownership to stewardship. There's a very deliberate move away from one. So you move away from a sectarian spirit to being a son, where you say, I submit to a heavenly order. There's a compliance that needs to be followed. And like you said, the blueprints have been discussed and endorsed, and you've got to go back to the blueprints. Now, the subject about capital, and you need money to make money. And I know let me say this, in no way are we shunning away, or am I shunning away, that the requirement for capital is a basic necessity in business 101s for most people. That's why most people are lack, because even this is not a gate thing, this is a South African thing, firstly. Okay, you got to go and case study this as well and see, and this is why SMEs and stuff are looking for capital. Our government has to learn how to tariff and promulgate better tariffs to protect the local economy so that China can't be coming in and taking away jobs. There's lots we can go look at how to go and put the right tariffs in play for distribution of a redistribution of wealth. You look at high net worth individuals of South Africa, the last statistics were less than 2%, which is 37 to 41,000 people in South Africa are deemed high net worth individuals. That's a systemic issue and historical as to why the distribution of wealth is not correctly done. Distributed. So we've got to change things from government level, from business levels. I know every company does have business development plans where large corporates, as example, do certain things where they offer and they're increasing and doing better for entrepreneurials and people that are growing as well. This forum is a forum specifically that is addressing things that has to do with biblical economics. But in the question of finance and who to contact if you, for example, if you want to grow a business and if you're looking for, the first thing I would advocate to do is go to the professionals, okay? The professionals are entities that are around us, business lending institutions that are governmentally compliant to issue finance. A church is not a lending institution because they'll need to follow the South African legislature in order to be a lending institution, and that we are not. So constitutionally we are not. So that's a whole new thing that you need to look at. But what a person can do, for example, and I like what you said, that when you create these forums, it's not to create these forums so you can go to Peter and ask him to lend Paul some money. No, that's not what these forums are for. I believe in the principle, if you teach someone to fish, first feed them and then teach them to fish and teach them the principles so you're empowering them to become wealth generators and how to then become good distributors of wealth, not to have this bad, ill mentality that was passed on to generate as well, to only take and not know how to give. Okay, sir. Next question. Yes. Sorry. Okay. So before I get to you, yes, Van. Okay. Sure. Okay. Medicop was actually birthed. It's quite a funny story because you talk about. I spoke about product diversification and how to diverse in market trends. Medicop was birthed during COVID. And what it was, during COVID with the lockdown as well, we sold electronic components and our business shut down. But we were given, I don't know what tier you were given where we could trade, and then our business was totally disruptive. Like so many of you, we couldn't sell because our business has got nothing to do with COVID. We couldn't offer any needs. We didn't sell any products that were medically going to help and ameliorate the current conditions of how to help the COVID pandemic. And then it was only by the grace of God, I then diversified our business from selling electronic components to selling medical products. And we grew our business from 0 into 7-8 figures. How it happened? Divine grace. I cannot tell you that I thought about it. I cannot tell you that I'm smart. I cannot tell you that I'm good at what I did. It was divine grace. And then we had to register with SAPRA and become critical in that. So that's how that was birthed. We were actually, when I'm pointing at George, I'm pointing at him because he was working with me then when we were doing Medicop. It was a crazy time. We were actually, Medicop was the company that financed a large percentage of the first flight that went to China to pick up medical supplies. Yeah. It's an incredible story. I cringe. When George had told me that the news was on the TV, I said, please tell me they didn't mention our names because we really don't want to be there. But that's just the grace of God. And that's a beautiful story about how you know how to diversify even in the moment of, where nobody's even thinking business. And God caused us to do that. And that's the important thing about knowing divine grace and being a son of God, is to know that woe unto you when you think your hands have created this wealth. Regards to Agalio Foundation, this came up where Margie and I, my wife and I, have a deep passion to do better in society. Not just humanitarian. We believe it's a calling because there's a difference between sympathetic, empathetic versus making a difference. And whilst we follow kingdom principles and we do what we can to do at church as well, we felt that based on where we are in our lives, that we wanted to create a foundation and use that to steward and see how we could harness and help people better. I must admit that we're not the best at it. We're still working to do better. But a year or two back ago, we were involved so what we do is that if we don't physically go out and help people, we become distributors. We give to them and we give substantial donations to help them as well. And then when the tornado hit Durban as well, we went out there and started our first project where we helped 1,000 families and we gave through. So what the foundation is doing, and we want to try to see how we can also synergistically look at it where we can do better even in communities like this. So if there's a need and things like that, have a chat with Malini if we feel a need and a pressing, because you've also got to be discerning to know where to give. You don't just loosely give. You've got to find things. So my advice to you, and this is why I said to you, is that when God blesses you, or when you want to become a good steward of God, you need to learn to know how to do better for the community. Learn to do how to be, because you're a distributor. You've got to learn how to be principled about it. I believe that the church in general has got to look at people who are unsaved. Let me use that in the context of this forum, and see how well they're benevolent. They know how to do. They are charitable. They give. They know. We've got to learn how to do better. We've got to really learn to do how to do better. Pastor Chris will tell you as well, when you see at the end of our Thanksgiving, we have a program in our church where if you've got things that you want to contribute and stuff, have a chat with our local church, because our church is also critical and very much involved. We may not physically go out, but we are contributing on a monthly basis. Pastor Chris, am I right in saying that? Very much so. Okay, Mom. Thank you. Yes, sir.
Hi, everyone. My name is Tsepiso from No Focus Gaming, a gaming organization at Soweto. Before I move forward, this is my first time here, and I want to take this opportunity and thank Zane for the invitation. Thank you so much, man. I truly appreciate it. Thank you. All right. This is nerve-wracking. I don't know how you do it. It's scary. So here's the thing, right? We run a gaming and esports organization right out of Soweto, and what we do has an impact when it comes to our communities in terms of gaming and esports, and just introducing gaming as an entirety in our communities, right? As an entrepreneur, I keep on finding myself in the same space over and over again, whereby, I'll make an example. Our closest competitors don't have as much as rage as we do in terms of putting out the work that we do, you know, and yet they get 10 times better when it comes to brand deals, funding, and everything. And I keep on finding myself being in the same spot whereby we find people who come and they want to work with us, only to use the goodness of our heart. You know, we work 10 times better. We do so much. We produce so much, and yet every time we fall into the same trap of people using us. I don't even know how to navigate it anymore, and I don't know whether it's the goodness of my heart. I'm struggling to find balance between being a good person and running a business, and that has actually it has cost so much.
Got you.
So I don't know how to phrase my question, but I think you can see where our struggle is.
Got you. Thank you for that. Elton's going to answer that in 30 seconds for you, but well done for your marketing, because you gave a shout out and you introduced your company. That's very good.
Yeah, thanks for the question. So when we were talking about the hero's journey earlier, we're talking about a period in that where it's your cave moment, and really about what you choose to do in that moment where you're in that cave. It actually builds. You can either decide that you're going to turn your back on it, or you're going to push through on it. There's a lot of ideas that we can share from business development and how you can enhance your business that will not be for this forum here, but we'll be happy to engage with you. One such thing is the marketing element of your business. Who's the audience that you're talking to, how you're getting in work, what your sales funnels are looking like, what your conversion rates. There's a lot of contextual questions that I have that will deal with, how you're currently doing business. So if we can engage maybe during once we finish with the session here, I'll be sure to get in, because it's difficult to try and respond to something quite specifically asked based on what you've mentioned.
Good, thank you. I'd like you to stand with me. We passed our time now as well, and thank you for your time. I know why we're here, because we really love God, and we have a deep discerning desire to be the best we can be in the marketplace. But whilst doing that, we also want to have a heavenly compliance and a standard that is is divinely orchestrated by God and favorable. So we just want to pray, and we just want to thank God. And you know, our challenges are not unique. We all share similar challenges as well in a marketplace that has a strong Babylonian and sectarian spirits, where we have to be a David and stand up and stand out and orchestrate the right governmental principles with a heavenly compliance to do better. But let's just thank God. Let's just thank God firstly, because I think the wisdom here is to thank God that we know Him as Father. And so, Father, we want to thank You this morning for Your grace and Your provisions, that we could come together as sons to curate the goodness of God, but yet at the same time learn better to do better. Someone once said that when we know better, we do better. And in order to know better, we've got to get our theology right and get a deeper understanding of the Word of God to make sure that everything that we do is compliant with the Word. A Christocentric understanding and the application of it must come from the blueprints, the doctrine of God, so that we could do better. Help us, Father. Your word tells us in Genesis 30:33 that so shall my righteousness answer for me in times to come. And that's why righteousness is the biggest asset we could have. Our practical righteousness allows us to negotiate in the heavens, allows us to have spiritual insurance that galvanizes us and that protects us. So bless us, we pray, Father. We pray, Lord, that You will touch our hands, that everything we touch will prosper, that You will touch our mouths like how Moses went before Pharaoh and said, let my people go. In the command of the word go is the ability to open up things. And we pray, Lord, that even in the marketplace, that opportunities will open up, that we'll see the floodgates open up for us as well, that we will see miraculously how God will divinely orchestrate us to sit in councils, to sit in presbyteries, to sit in boardrooms, that even we ourselves were not even qualified to sit in, and we will be able to testify that and say that this is only through the grace of God. There may be people here that may be at crossroads right now that are thinking long and hard that, God, what are You calling me to do? My business is failing. I'm not making it. I'm not doing well. Or maybe they're in the corporate space and asking You, Holy Spirit, should I be in business? We pray that, Father, You would give them divine revelation, prophetic insight to make the right decision that You have called them to be, that they will act out of obedience to the Word of God and use the Word as a test to measure and authenticate what You are saying. Bless us, Father. Bless our families. Bless our businesses. Bless everything that You have given us custody over, that we will be good stewards of, to know how to do better so that we can not just advance Your kingdom, so that we could make this place a better place, planet Earth, to live in, whilst having a moral and spiritual compliance to do better. We ask this in Your name we pray. Amen and amen.